So like,
Talk at the same time that I'm talking.
Okay, if we
Let's,
talk over the
if
top
we
of each
talk
other
at
and
all-
see
yeah.
if we can hear both at the same time.
I think yes,
See, I only hear myself, so this is all you.
and I can hear both of us.
But just like socially, you're dominating me.
You think so?
I have no idea. I'm just
No.
assuming
Not really.
because you're the host and I'm just a dude
I'm the host with
with
the most.
I knew you. I saw the
volume.
smile start, and I'm like, he's gonna do it.
A toast.
That's gross.
It's kind of a slant rhyme.
We don't want to turn this into a roast.
Yeah.
There we go. I saved it. Got it back.
This man loves to boast.
I could hear that perfectly. Just
Yeah.
Not sponsored. 300 milligrams of caffeine. Don't drink for a day. You can prove what it does to you.
That's right. If you want to be an incompetent employee like I am,
Hey, you left on your own volition. That's better than a lot of people do.
fair enough. Fair
Now,
enough.
did you ever officially get written up, though?
No, never.
See? Then there you go. Most competent employee. No proof otherwise.
Do people get written up at Dynalab? So.
Yeah. Did.
Oh, that's true.
And so did before he quit.
Mm.
I guess I'm not supposed to say other people's names, am I?
Yeah. How dare you?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
did
They are listening.
you're like,
okay.
the dishwasher did, and
Yeah.
the guy who quit the same day as me did, so that we know who we're talking about, but no one else does.
I guess I didn't keep up with all of that. Like, I don't exactly know.
It's usually, especially like nowadays, writing up is I'm not allowed to fire you, and I'm extremely unhappy with you. Sort of. The write up isn't the late 90s, like, oops, you did a fucky wucky, here's a write up. It's not that.
Yikes. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I guess we just kind of like bled into the podcast there. Here we are.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah.
Welcome.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 1 of Labdominals.
Am I supposed to introduce myself? Or is that your thing? I don't. You're the
That's
decider.
a good point. Yeah, I guess we're just starting it off. So, episode 1, I'm here with Nathan Suthoff. Nathan, tell me about yourself.
Well, I'm Eric's current coworker and worked with him at his last job. I am 30, so old man of the friend group.
Shit.
Yeah, take that for 2 years from now. What was it? No, I was the second oldest one yesterday at dinner. So I'm not the old one.
Nah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
Makes me
but
feel a
you're,
little better.
You're getting up there. So
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that every morning when I wake up.
I only say that as somebody who's trending toward 30. And
if you did the opposite, I would be surprised.
yeah.
As somebody constantly getting younger, I make fun of him constantly.
Fair enough. I'm Benjamin Button here. Okay, so this hat is not going to work.
You don't want more branding?
I think it's just because I can't see you.
Oh, you're
You
the
know.
brimming and talking just at the microphone?
Yeah. So, for those of you listening, I'm wearing a Bang hat right now, and it looks pretty fucking cool. Actually, I love this fucking thing. I got this at a event in where was I?
That's an interesting part of the country.
I think it was right. I think it was Orlando. Yeah, I think we were at some sort of like bodybuilding convention.
I was gonna guess. I can imagine Bang trying to like advertise themselves as a healthy, show up to
Right.
bodybuilding and sports science events and be like, yeah, come drink
Yeah.
aspartame and caffeine. It's good for you.
How dare you? This has coenzyme Q10.
That's not Bang.
Yeah,
That's
a
an
good
entirely
point.
different drink.
No, this is exactly what a Bang is, but like not a Bang.
See, the whole point of those that I drink now for everybody on the audio, it's a Rain Energy that Eric introduced me to, 3 years ago?
It's so good. Yeah, I guess so. I guess it must have been 2 years ago at this point, but it
Okay.
seems like 3.
Yeah, COVID time dilation.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I guess it was 2 years ago, but I'd never heard of them. They're
Yeah.
300 milligrams of caffeine in an energy drink, which is insane.
And you just get absolutely dialed in with this.
Well, unless you're in the peak of your caffeine consumption, and then you drink, what was it, one in the car on the way to work, open one at
Yes.
work, and then have one at lunch?
That's exactly it. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was my setup. So
That's insane. That is almost a gram of caffeine.
almost
a
a
day.
gram of caffeine. It was way too much. I was way too jittery, and like
And for some reason, you weren't sleeping very well. I can't imagine why.
yeah,
that was
no, I
happening.
don't know why. I think I was depressed. No, so-
That's the only thing I can attribute it to.
yeah, it was. And this is actually probably not the best thing to drink before a isolation tank.
That's a good point. I didn't think
Yeah.
about that. Because I had a little bit of the jitters when I had one the second time we went.
Okay.
Yeah, I could kind of feel my heart racing a little bit, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is a problem.
Mm.
But then
Yeah.
I have a problem if I don't eat and like don't drink anything for the isolation tanks, I fall asleep every time. Like half the time, I'm just so comfortable, and I'm like, neutral buoyant, and it's like warm, and there's that little casual music playing.
Right.
I'm
Right.
floating, and I'm like, man, this is nice. And then the alarms are going off, and I'm like, oh yeah, I totally fell asleep. Like but it's like a super restful, like usually heavy dream
Right.
sleep, and I'm fine
Mhm.
with that. But it's like, man, Eric just paid a lot of money for me to fall asleep. Like that, I feel bad about this now.
Yeah, but it was such a good nap. I
Yeah,
mean,
the first time we went, I didn't sleep at all. That was the
Yeah.
one where I had like semi-lucid dreamings.
okay.
And then the second time, the first one I slept a little because I was like in that weird like semi-lucid dreaming state where I was
Right,
like in
yeah.
between in and out.
Yeah.
And then the second time was the caffeine time, and I didn't sleep at all that time. Then the third time, I kept falling asleep and waking up, and I would like wake up and stretch, which is how I knew I fell asleep. That I would like
Yeah.
stretch all the way out in the entire tank and like hit the walls, be like, ah, fuck, and, like bounce around, and then be like, oh, that was weird, and then I fall back asleep again.
Oh God.
Yeah, so that one I remember, I definitely fell asleep more than once. But that was also the like most restful one that I had for sure. Like I walked out very peaceful, and that was the one with Hunter. Actually, I remember that now.
See, I keep forgetting that you've been with me like several times.
I think it's been 5 now.
Has it been 5
It's
times?
either been 4 or 5.
It can't be.
I know it's been 4 because I did the first time when I was nervous and didn't want to say it up,
Mm-hmm.
and then the caffeine time that I went with just me and you, and then Hunter, and then the bad trip.
Dude, what the fuck?
So that's been 4 times.
I swear to God, in my memory, like we went once, and Hunter was there.
No, you just remember that one because I was kind of mean to him, and I felt bad about that one afterwards.
It was kind of funny though.
I mean, I don't know where that came from, but I felt bad about it.
I feel like with your friends, especially like if you're really good friends with someone, like you are kind of mean to them.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair.
I mean, you have to be.
Yeah, I felt like
Like-
we're all connected. That's gay.
As one
Yeah, and I.
gay.
It's like I went for the community the gift gay, and I was like didn't land it at all, and I was like, man, now I just seem like I'm a bigot, and that is just worse. And I'm like, I never used that as an insult, and then
Yeah,
I did,
right.
and then it didn't land, so now I don't want to like defend myself.
And it was just like an audience of like
The one employee and him.
the one like very Asian employee at the faux. It was just like I'm done with them.
Yeah,
These guys.
it's like they're not getting any more food. They're
Right.
staying over there. But yeah, so that was the third time though, and then I went the other time with the lights, and I could hear people talking. So the last time I went was the time where I didn't have a good time,
Jeez.
and then your tank didn't turn off.
Yeah, it didn't.
They thought you fell asleep.
So my tank malfunction. Yeah, so this has always kind of been a fear of mine, where
See,
I
but now
would-
it's happened, so now
Yeah.
you're not afraid of it anymore, right? Like
Now I
the worst
know.
case scenario is not that bad.
Exactly. But I mean, going in, I was always afraid. Like, okay, so if it doesn't turn off, what happens? Do they just let me sit there?
I get trapped in here like a sarcophagi, and
Yeah.
they lock you in and take you into a warehouse somewhere.
The next person like tries to unlock the door and they can't get
Just
in.
a
They're like,
desiccated body from
"What
all
the
the salt.
I have become a mummy.
Free
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
No, instead what happens is they make passive aggressive comments about where's your friend out front while you wait for them.
That's a good
Assuming that you're
point.
taking like a 25-minute shower, and I'm like, I don't know.
And
and
it's
then it-
literally your first time, and you're like, I have fucking no idea. Like,
I don't know what he's doing. I mean, then they just go and knock and say, "Are you good?" And you go, "Oh." She said
Yeah.
too that she went and knocked and then heard
Yeah.
splashing of you like
Hello?
trying to move, trying to get out of the tank really fast.
yeah.
Which I'm sure if you hear no sound at all and then loud knocking, immediate panicked response would be probably natural. Yeah.
I'm tripping.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm dying. Fight or flight response goes immediately.
I'm drowning. Help.
It's 6 inches of water. Just hear that underneath.
Can you imagine the fucking embarrassment that you
If
must
be
feel?
the first guy to drown in a 6-inch isolation
Yeah,
tank,
yeah.
which added buoyancy because of the salt, so you'd have to like push your own head down to try to drown.
Honestly, do they have to know CPR to work there?
I'd hope not.
Yeah.
I would really. It's probably more like a spa than anything aqua related.
I would think so. Yeah, I mean,
So-
that would make sense.
But there's the one guy who's like, oh yeah, Jimmy's the CPR guy. Like he's our guy. He works on Saturdays. Like that's
Jimmy.
probably a thing that happens.
Yeah, and he's kind of creepy with it. You
Yeah,
know?
he's like, I can know all the CPR.
He like licks his lips before he
Way
gives
too
you.
much.
Yeah,
One
like
of
he's excited to give you CPR.
How would you say that? What's your diet like? No, dude, Jimmy, don't go there.
Stop.
I want to eat a lot of garlic just to make this really unpleasant for you. Well, you know, you're not supposed to do rescue breaths anymore for CPR at all.
What is that?
The rescue breath is the mouth to mouth. Mouth
Okay.
to mouth, mouth to mouth.
Yeah.
You don't do that at all anymore for
Really?
CPR. You just do chest compressions. Now, I don't
Why?
think my CPR card's valid. I think I haven't. What year is it?
I was
2022
gonna say,
now.
are you certified, sir?
Well, as far as I'm aware, the way that the Good Samaritan laws work is there's like a hierarchy of who's supposed to give CPR, and it's like
Okay. EMT.
EMT emergency professionals. Like if there's
Yeah.
an EMT giving somebody CPR, I can't like come through and be like, "Excuse me, I
Yeah.
am CPR trained," and then shove them off and give CPR. Like I go to jail for that. But if
Is there a
they're-
doctor in the house?
Yeah, it's me, bitches. Yeah, like that's not gonna land. But if there's no one there, then you're supposed to ask if anybody is like. You're supposed to ask or no if anybody there is currently trained in CPR and has a valid license.
Okay.
And then if you're like, "Is anybody here know CPR?" Nobody says anything. And if I ask that, and then somebody's like, "Is CPR trained?" and doesn't step up, the burden of knowledge is off of me. I've asked. There's no way I can know that guy's CPR trained.
Fair enough.
And then I can give CPR as somebody who was trained in the past. And I don't know if that's written in the law or if that's just I just forgot when there's previous cases that set the precedent.
Right,
precedent.
yeah.
I don't know if
Case
that's
law.
precedent or
Yeah.
or if it's written in the actual law. But then after that, if I show up and give CPR, I would be protected by Good Samaritan laws.
Interesting.
So this is all what was told to me the last time I updated my card, which has been a long time ago. So maybe it's back to rescue breaths, but you weren't supposed to give any anymore. It's just the chest compressions to the beat of Staying Alive.
Okay. Yeah.
Which
yeah.
is
yeah.
impossible to
First
forget
I was
once you hear
afraid.
that. Yeah.
I was
That's
satisfied.
right. No, you're just sitting there, like
And you-
singing along, and they're like, "She's dying."
You missay the lyrics to a song that's not even
the right song.
Yeah.
You're singing Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
I'm just a poor boy. Like holding the bushes, and they're like, "Sir, you need to step away." And they're like, "Oh, the AMTs are here. They were. You're welcome. I saved her." And it's like, "No, you didn't. You actually hindered exclusively." Well, and I guess the thought is the two reasons you don't do the rescue breaths anymore is that they're really hard to do right. You have to like tilt the chin up all the way,
Okay.
and even like a perfectly done, perfectly sealed rescue breath doesn't add a ton of oxygen to the lungs. And this is all hearsay from my training from like 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago now.
That would make sense. I mean,
And then you have so many more issues with like, why are they? Maybe they had a poison or something, and that's why they're
Right.
unconscious. And now you've introduced that to your bloodstream, or maybe one of you has a communicable disease, and now both of you do. So
mhm.
it introduces so many more vectors that are problems than just for not that big of a payoff. Where the biggest issue with CPR is keeping the oxygenated blood that's currently in there, because that doesn't get
Right.
consumed super quickly. People go without air for like 25 minutes at some points. That'd be perfectly fine.
And how much oxygen is in a breath?
Yeah, exactly. It's
exhaled.
mostly not nitrogen anyway. So
Yeah.
it's
mostly nitrogen, and it's a lot of CO2.
Yeah. So, and I think that's the point too, is that it's actually anytime you're talking about holding breath, the CO2 buildup is what
Mhm.
gets you faster than oxygen deprivation.
Oh,
So
interesting.
people who
Yeah.
do like their long, because I used to do like swim team and stuff, I would actually
Right.
be easier if I'm doing my like long 50-meter no breathers, like halfway through to exhale. And I could make it further doing that than I could holding my breath the whole way. Because you exhale the CO2 that's starting to become a problem, and then you get an extra solid couple of seconds out of it. Yeah, it helps more than just breathing in.
Right.
And I guess the rescue breaths you do push a lot of the CO2 out, so that's not as big of an issue anymore. Or not the rescue breaths, the chest compressions you do.
Doesn't the buildup of CO2 also trigger the next breath?
Yeah, that's the when you feel the I need to take a breath right now.
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
that's CO2. That's not oxygen. So you can actually, if you hold your breath, and if any of you at home want to try it, you can hold your breath, and as soon as you feel that my lungs are burning, I need to take enough breath, breathe out slowly, and you'll feel like a solid 10-15 seconds minimum of that effect going away. Now, that only gets the CO2 out of your lungs, it doesn't get the CO2 out of your bloodstream, so that effect won't go away permanently. Obviously, you can't just be like, I breathed out, so now I cannot breathe ever again. No, that's not how that works. It's still going to be there, but it does buy you some time.
Man, what if we're just addicted to breathing?
It's just the entire society of like the intergalactic market. It's just like, look at those oxygen fiends.
Yeah.
They can't go 20 seconds without it. Everywhere else is
Christ,
just
they
like
are addicted.
just osmosing light energy, and they're like
Yeah.
weirdos, and we're like, I need it the whole time.
Yeah, the buildup of CO2 and the triggering of your next breath is just withdrawal.
Just 20-second withdrawal effects.
Yeah.
The really cool people can go like 3 minutes, but most people can't.
What if we just have dead air
Just
time
for 3 minutes. Everybody hold your breath.
while we stare at each other and hold our breath?
I think that would be called, what's the word? Bad entertainment.
I think it would, yeah. I think it really would.
Somebody would come and be like, I think my headset just died. I don't know what's happening here.
Literally, this thing is called Labdominals, and they haven't spoken about science yet.
Well, there was like some science adjacent stuff.
That's a good thing. Yeah, that's the point of it, right?
Yeah, right. Like nobody's gonna sit here and be like, all right, on chapter 246 of Melbourne's organic textbook, we're gonna learn about osmosis. Like nobody is. You know what's? None of that was anything I could think of, but it all sounded reasonable.
Honestly, you convinced me.
Yeah, right. Like you thought I had that written down, prepared. No, I just pulled it out.
Like honestly, I almost looked over at my organic chemistry text.
Who's my author? Oh, I blocked the name of that one for PTSD reasons.
It's like Wiley or something.
Yeah, that's
Campbell.
I think mine was Wiley.
Okay.
Maybe that was the publisher. What was yours? You got it behind you, don't you? You got a whole
I think
stack
it's covered up. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of books over there.
The other way, I remember it was $385.
Yikes.
That was mine. So.
Ew.
Yeah. And it had a lab key that I had to use too.
A lab key.
Well, no, that wasn't organic. That was Chem 2.
I can see that.
Organic didn't have I used a loose leaf one for organic, and it was still like way too much money. And it was to the point to where I could have like downloaded a PDF and printed it, and I would have paid more for like the paper and ink than it was to like get the book anyway. I think the loose leaf book was like like 120. It was way cheaper. I think the hardback one was like 400.
Jesus.
Which I don't know if I ever told you the story about me almost getting kicked out of the school library.
No. What
or
happened?
The school bookstore, rather. On my freshman year, I was, on scholarship and had all the extra money and everything. And it's like, here's my book list. It's 12 books. And I have to say, well, I had to buy all these, which is my first mistake.
Obviously.
And I spent like $1,600 or $1,700 on books.
Okay.
And including the lab manuals you actually need. And then your like first edition hardback paper sealed book you never even open.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to do book buyback day.
Okay.
And you'd go in there and they'd say, they have all the registers open because they'd never do that at any other point. And they have all the employees there who are knowledgeable on it. And I went to go give them one of those unsealed, it's like a math book.
Okay.
It's like a cup, like $400, hardback, unsealed, slid in the plastic wrapper with the label that I got it from them on.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm going to give this back for like book buyback. Can I get a refund on it? Or like, is it just going to be buyback? And they go, oh no, this is the last year they're using this book. And this was the end of the fall semester. So they still had the spring semester. They still would have sold it.
Yeah.
And they went, we're only using it this year, so we're only going to give you $50 for it.
Jesus Christ.
And I was like, it's new.
Yeah.
Like I could go get a refund on my card with this because it's not used. And they said, no, that's not how it works. Do you want to give it to us? And I said, no, not at all.
No.
And I like finished my book buyback, and then I turned around, and all these people are online. And I said, who wants whatever book it was? $200. And some guy was like, yo, I will. And then they were like, you cannot do that. And I was like, what are you talking about? And the dude gave me $200 cash, and I gave him the book, and he's like, I'm saving half. And I'm like, I made $150. And they were like, you need to leave. They were so mad at me for doing that.
Oh, that's so funny.
And then like a year and a half later, at the end of the next year, they quit doing book buyback.
Okay.
They just stopped doing it. And I was like, I wonder if I was a contributing factor to that.
Yeah.
I would like to think that there was like 100 of me.
Dude.
Just sitting and I guess afterwards, I talked to some friends. People would basically like scalp and go sit outside the bookstore.
Right.
And then like sell people books and stuff. So I had the same idea that as other people had, but I obviously only did it once. So it wasn't
You're
that
a fucking
big of a
agent
deal.
of change, man.
Yeah,
Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
I'm sure people were doing it well before I did it. I was just the only guy stupid enough to do it 4 feet from the employee. As soon as I got done turning around,
smart enough.
literally paid them, turned around, and went, "Who wants this?" Yeah. That's probably the worst way to do that.
That's like super transparent though, because you know everyone else is doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's also you can't stop me. I didn't sign an affidavit saying I can't do that.
You didn't sign a non-compete agreement.
Yeah, exactly. I'll make my own books. Like, Now looking back on it, could I have got more money by not doing that? Probably. I probably could have gone outside and said $300 for this book, and somebody else goes, "Ooh, that's $100 less for me. Neat." And I made $100 more. But in my head, I was like, "That's halfway between what I'm getting," because in my head I'm getting nothing, which was kind of close, and 400. So I'll meet in the middle. Why would I do that? I controlled the product. I could have sold it for $375, and somebody would have bought it.
Jesus.
I just didn't want to have it anymore.
Dude, I'm gonna throw on this.
Your hoodie.
I'm fucking cold. Yeah.
I mean, the sun's coming through a little bit. It's not bad.
Yeah, but I usually have that like blocked off.
Oh, you sit in the dark?
Yeah, like all of those what are those called? sun blocking shades.
Oh, the blackout curtains.
Yeah, the blackout
Yeah.
curtains.
When I worked, you worked second, so that's kind of necessary
Yeah.
for you. That's the same thing I did. I had blackout curtains in my bedroom. I had
right.
blackout curtains on the kitchen so that I could come out and go to the bathroom in the
Yeah.
middle of the night for me, you
Uh-huh.
know, 11 a.m.
Right,
and
right.
not get woken up. So
yeah.
I guess that's fair. I shouldn't judge you for that.
Fair
Sorry,
enough.
didn't want to.
How dare you?
I mean, my seconds were more overnights than yours are, though. It's like the latest year at work is like 11, right?
Allegedly.
Yeah, Your Honor. Whereas Papa John's closed at 1.
Okay.
So I mean, I would be home if it was a
Dude.
good day too.
The fucking dream.
Yeah, it's miserable. You think that until I don't know what night shift workers do now. With
Yeah.
COVID being a thing, like
Right.
Walmart, it closes at 10. Like restaurants don't stay open overnight anymore. Gas stations are
No.
closed at like midnight. Like what do they do? Do you just have to try to do the awful thing that night shift people do and stay up until the morning and get all your work done and then go to bed late?
Right.
Because I had coworkers that do that. They would go home and they'd stay up till like 6 or whatever when like banks and stuff started opening.
Right,
Like
right.
6 or 7.
And then they
Do
would,
all their stuff, then go to bed at
Yeah.
8. And then sleep till like 4 and then wake up at like 4:30 to go to work at 5.
Yikers.
And they're like, yeah, it's better. I'm just actually all in on the overnights now. I'm
Yeah.
night shift, not really second. I'm like, that sounds like it's the worst.
Yeah, that would suck.
And I guess that's what you'd have to do now.
I guess so.
Do
Well-
not envy that at all.
Yeah, no, and especially because we're diurnal creatures, that a lot of our hormones are based on
The sun cycle.
the sun cycle. Yeah, so like I've been listening to a guy, Andrew Huberman, and he has a podcast called Huberman Lab. And basically what he talks about is like the sooner you can get sunlight and as much sunlight as you can, the better for activating a lot of your hormone levels. And
I wonder if
hormone
that's
cycle.
why I had it way easier to intermittent fast like in the summer.
oh yeah,
I
Maybe.
had no issues at all with my hunger levels
Yeah.
and my energy levels and my workouts.
because you can fucking go outside so much easier.
Yeah, and I'd wake up in the morning and there'd be sunlight, and I wonder if that's controlling the like food hormones. Whereas now
maybe.
it's like I literally never see the sun,
No,
and I'm
No.
just like hungry all day,
right.
or not hungry all day, which is worse because that means I don't get full. Like that was the whole problem that triggered me to intermittent fast in the first place.
Right,
So
fair enough.
that makes sense. I never thought about that. I know that happens in like Arctic areas.
okay. Yeah,
where they
yeah.
have to talk about like people who work on the oil pipelines
yeah.
like really should have mental health mandated to them because they don't see the sun for like 2.5 months.
Yeah.
And then their turnover is insane. And they're like, well, it's because it's cold. And you're like, yeah, I'm sure that doesn't help. I'm
It
sure the average
definitely
temperature being
contributes,
10
yeah.
degrees is
Yeah.
a big detractor. But they're also just depressed for 3 months straight.
I mean, yeah, and that's that's probably triggered by something, right?
And then they come home and they're like, oh man, I feel way better when I'm home. Obviously, the problem was that job. I mean, probably, but
Yeah.
it's not going to help that you were just hormonally depressed for 2.5 months.
Seriously. Now, is there a way that you could artificially set up your environment to simulate the summer season?
They do that. That's all that the UV lamps are.
Yeah.
And like vitamin D lamps is just
Yeah.
that.
God, they're expensive though. You ever look into those?
Yeah, I look
Oh
because
my God.
I was reading this. It was like a sci-fi novel, and they talked about how that when
Mhm.
they're out in like deep space areas, they have to do the artificial UV and vitamin D stuff.
Right.
And I was like, is that the stuff they use like in? I know like some places in like Russian hospitals do that, where they like artificially induce sunlight because they don't get any sunlight naturally ever, and then it's the wintertime,
Right.
the person has mental health issues.
yeah.
And I was like, I wonder if that's like a cheap thing to just like,
Yeah.
get buy $100 lamp off IKEA
I mean,
and then put the right bulb
yeah.
in it and you're good. I looked it up and I was like, nope, it's not. It is.
No.
It's definitely chemotherapy expensive. It is
Yeah.
a custom made like 4 foot tall UV lamp light that is not any sort of bulb that's made for any sort of fluorescent.
No.
Right. So as soon as I was like looking into it, I went, yeah, that makes sense. I can't believe I thought that'd be cheap.
Yeah. Sucks, man.
And
I
also,
mean-
if you're like depressed because you're working nights, you're not going to go spend $400 to maybe not be depressed.
Right.
That's
yeah.
not something
yeah,
that
'cause you're like,
happens.
why bother?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be fine. I'll just like go to
Yeah.
sleep more, and it's like that's the
Exactly.
problem.
Yeah.
This
I'll
is
just
how we
sleep
got
more.
here. in the
I don't
first
need to
place.
clean my room.
I'll just like get pizza again, and then I'll clean it
Yeah.
tomorrow. I mean, if I don't leave the bed, I won't make any more mess.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't find the black mold that's growing on your fucking
The
windowsill.
bottom- I feel like that one was a little too personal.
Way too specific.
That was
yeah.
oddly specific.
Yeah, there was black mold in my windowsill.
I think you're supposed to report that to your landlords.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to them.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's like
I don't want to talk to anybody except for
it is a
my coworkers who I love.
that I want to be by myself on my black mold in my dark room.
That's right.
Soundproofed windows.
Exactly. I don't care about the health benefit.
The health benefits of black mold. Like a millennial joke. I get to die faster. Hell
That's
yeah.
right.
That's just a benefit.
That's right.
You know how much rent I'm paying when I'm dead? Zero.
Yeah,
Saving
yeah.
money.
It's all the downsides of being a millennial and all of the downsides of being a Gen Z.
Yeah,
You're like right on the cusp of both.
There's a term for us, for our generation. I don't remember what it was.
Zillennials.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Man, I hope not.
Zillennials.
Aren't we closer to Gen X?
No.
No, we're on the
not.
bottom end of it.
Well, I'm closer than you are.
Oh, fine. 30 years old.
No, like we're right on the cusp though, because I think it starts like 1985.
Okay, so
And then it ends 1995.
Oh, so I'm like dead middle.
Yeah.
I am the millennial.
Okay.
John Millennial.
Yeah,
I'm
I think you're
91.
John Millennial. What's
yeah,
up, man?
Yeah. I'm the guy who can't buy a house and just wants to eat hot chip and lie. That's the
And that makes no sense because you have a lot of money.
No, I have money set aside for a down payment on a house. It's not that much money.
I don't, you don't like to brag. You're kind of humble. But, for the listeners at home, he has a lot of money. The man is basically a millionaire.
If you take 4 orders of magnitude off of that, it's still like just an overt lie. Nowhere near that. My wife and I are very frugal people. And, like I said, I used to work Papa John's night shift. So I had cash money.
Oh, yeah.
Barely. I think my average income tax was like $6,700 wages on the year. And I was working full time. Like that wasn't just, oh yeah, I only worked 8 hours. I worked 37 hours because if you worked 40, Papa would come in and break your kneecaps. And I would make, I think averaged was like 9, but I definitely saw 6,700 years. And then I think one year I made like 10. I was like, ooh, 5 digits, yeah. Like,
whoa.
So I've definitely had I don't have the money to spend on that mindset.
Oh,
and
yeah.
My wife and I, when we met and got married, did the same thing.
Okay.
And then we're like, hey, we're going to move to St. Louis and buy a house.
Sure.
Except, just kidding. The housing market is going cash offers on unseen properties at like 150% list price.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
No. My generation will not buy a house on that. We can't buy a house on that.
No.
Who has $280,000 cash lying around? People who are buying their second, third homes or selling their first homes at these huge inflated rates to somebody else who's already sold their house. And it's just a circular idea of it's like hermit crabs going from smaller shells to bigger shells in a big line.
Yeah, exactly.
And then nobody else who's not a hermit crab gets to get in there and get a house.
Yeah, and then all of us octopus are just like chilling.
I guess I'll just pay $400,000 over my life in rent. That's fine.
I'll just blend in with this rock really quick
and hope nobody notices.
Yeah.
But I guess the loop to the story is that my wife and I pay very cheap rent to live in her parents' basement. So, I mean, that just sounds terrible, like from an outlying perspective. But boy, does it save you money.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
And I mean, also, that basement is bigger than any apartment I've ever lived in.
Yeah.
It is a full walkout finished basement with a bathroom and a kitchenette. And so it's not bad. You hear basement, you think like the laundry room in every apartment complex.
Yeah, it's like the concrete walls that are
unfinished,
dripping.
like the one drain that's like definitely raised on the floor
Right,
always, like in the bottom, and the one bare light bulb.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if I didn't have to pay rent to live there, that's
Fair enough.
I mean, that's
pretty good.
I could save up some money pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. Just like cobwebs everywhere.
Yeah, there's definitely like a sweet spot. Like we pay a couple $100 in rent, like which is not free.
Too bad.
But when you think greater metropolitan area, a couple $100 for a big area, that's free.
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't happen anywhere else. Nobody else is going, I've got a huge 2-bedroom area for $400. You'd say, oh, who do you know? Like, how do you own the building? Like, that doesn't happen. But there's a sweet spot there where if you get that for a couple $100 and you get bare light basement finished room for $0, there's somewhere in the middle there which is perfect.
Sweet spot.
Yeah, there's like a studio for like $70. Like maybe that's the dream.
Ooh, maybe. Studio for $70.
With like a carpet on everything and like a single nice toilet. And like a full shower.
Exposed too.
Yeah, it had to be at that point.
Gotta be exposed.
It's like one step up from the apartment laundry room. Like,
dude, are we talking LA?
I mean, I kind of feel like I inadvertently just shit on LA there.
This kind of sounds like LA.
And then I have 2 roommates also that share that
All
same
right,
area.
2 roommates is bougie.
They're like, I
but-
got 2 couches in my studio, so we could split this 3 ways.
Yeah, how much are dividers? You know,
I mean, they're expensive, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, they kind of are.
But I mean,
We'll throw up some blankets. We'll make it a fort. I mean, come on.
and then everybody will love each other. We won't get
Yeah.
tired of seeing each other literally every second we're at home in our entire life.
Yeah, and then somebody just stops paying rent.
Yeah, and then you have we had
Squatters' rights, man.
so
Can't
we
keep 'em
had
out.
when we lived with my high school friends, and we got an apartment or as a duplex right outside the college we went to.
Okay, yeah.
And we had a coworker of mine who was like, "Hey, I'm gonna have to quit this weekend. Like, I don't have a house anymore." And so I went to go his parents lived like hours away. He's I went to go get my car and just go live with my parents again.
Right.
And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, they closed my lease and like upped the money and I can't afford it and I couldn't find the new place and everybody wants a down payment. I just don't have the money.
Mm.
And it's like, I worked at Papa John's too. Like, I get it.
Right.
I went and like talked to my friends and I said like, "Hey, we're in a duplex. We have a garage that's unused. Like, and we got an air mattress. You cool if he just like sits there for a while?" And they're like, I mean, and we've met him. They'd hung out with him a couple times. Like, yeah, he's
Right.
fine. He can stay there. And I told them, and I'm looking back, glad that I did it.
Yeah.
And I said, like, you will be here until the 1st. If you want to stay after the 1st, it's
Mhm.
$150 a month. And if I don't have the money on the 2nd, we're throwing you out. Like, you are not a tenant here.
Right.
You are just staying here for 30 days.
You have no squatters' rights.
He's like, "No, man, I'll be gone in 2 weeks." And I'm like, "I don't
Yeah.
believe you."
no.
So at 31 days,
Mhm.
you're paying me. And he was like, "Yeah, I understand." And then fast forward 4 weeks and he's still there. And I'm like, "Hey, we need $150 tomorrow." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that. I don't know. I'm saving it up." And I'm like, "Okay, I know. I understand."
Right.
Like, or else you're gone. And then the next morning he came in, he gave us like a big stack of 20s. And it's like, "Okay, cool. You did it."
Nice.
And he's like, I think he had like $120 and he's like, "I got to get the other 30 when I work my shift today."
Fair enough.
I was like,
he's
you know
a
what?
good amount there.
You tried. Like,
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
and the 150 number was kind of arbitrary anyway, so who knows? And
yeah.
Then he like went to work, got tipped like $40, came back, gave us $30.
Hell yeah.
And we're like, perfect. And then he stayed there like 3.5 weeks. And they ended up being like, "Hey, I got a down payment. I saved up money. Friend, I'm gonna go move in with them. I don't know if he couch surfed or got a place. I'm not sure."
Right.
He's like, "Hey, really appreciate you guys living here." Like, "Thanks." And he left. And I'm like, looking back, that could have been so much worse.
Oh yeah. Totally.
He could have just because he was gonna stay, and luckily we were lying in the sand. No,
Right.
Pay
You're not
us.
going to do this. Yeah.
yeah, and
We're going to
and he did.
establish this right now. You're not staying with us.
Yeah, you're not a roommate. You are on an
Yeah.
air mattress in the garage, which I'm glad to help you with that. I felt a little better.
Fair enough.
Hey, sorry, coworker, you're homeless now. Like, you can't help everybody, but
Yeah.
helping one person feels good. And then it didn't burn me. It didn't turn out to us having to evict him and us getting kicked out of our apartment because we're now validating Tennessee laws. And now I've lived in 4 different apartments in 4 different colleges. Which one am I talking about, landlords? You have no idea. All of them had a garage. I think one of them didn't.
That's how Airbnb started.
Wasn't it like also sued extremely frequently in its infancy?
I think so. Maybe because a lot of people just like trashed people's houses.
And people would a lot of rental apartments too. If you didn't own the property, had things like no visitor clauses.
They do, yeah.
And
yeah.
so then suddenly you're having 50 people a year staying in your apartment,
Right,
and they
right.
would get sued. And then the owner would be like, "No, it's not. They're not visitors. They're
Yeah.
clients." And then they kind of deflect to Airbnb, which was what I would do.
Yeah, but
100%.
in my agreement, there is a no subleasing clause.
I think that's a common thing though,
Yeah,
because then all that is them losing out on money.
right.
Because if you sign a lease and you get grandfathered to a rate, and then every 5 years they're trying to up the average rental rate, you're still
Yeah.
locked in at your rate. You can just decide, "Hey, I'm paying $300 a month on rent," which is not
Really?
not what you're paying at all.
They can't just like raise the rate on you.
Yeah, they can. I know at least in our state, there's limits for what the raises can be, and I
Okay.
think it's most states do that. But then even if they hit that limit every time, it's very
Yeah.
likely that market rate gets faster than that.
Okay.
And so if you sublease, you can just say, "I'll pay you the full amount for
Yeah.
the rent,"
Totally.
and then somebody else will pay me $200 more than that
Yeah.
to live here.
But Jim's gonna come in and he's actually gonna
And
live.
Jim's
here.
going to live here for 4 years.
Yeah.
And I will make $150 a month for 4 years.
Dude, inflation, man.
It's a thing. I actually knew somebody when I lived with my ex who did that.
Okay.
The person next door or like the next building down be different like every 6 months. And I was just like, man, I can't believe they get those leases signed that quickly. Oh no, he subleases.
Insane.
He subleases. He doesn't live here the whole year. He lives here like 2 months of the year. And I guess he was like training to be a pilot or something. I don't remember what it was.
Okay.
But he would only live there for 2 months, so he'd just sublease it for 10 months, and then he'd get
Fair
new people
enough.
every couple months.
That's the way to do it. That's the fucking capitalist dream.
So I hope I didn't just
right
out him.
there.
I don't know if he knew he
How
was
dare
doing
you,
that.
John?
Yeah. His name was I don't even remember his name. I don't know if it was a he.
No.
I just remember the one person who lived there who was like an ass. And was like they'd come out and check, like they would go check people's parking permits on their cars.
Right.
And then they'd be like, "Who even are you?" Like, "Well, I live over here." Like, "So and so lived over there 2 months ago. Who are you?" And then they were gone like a month later.
Dude,
I remember that being
those
weird
rains were a mistake.
You jittery
Gotta pee again.
already?
Yeah.
That's fast.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I got
Way too quick.
half a glass of water.
Yeah. I'll be right back. We'll just dead air for a sec.
Just stare into the middle distance.
Yeah, if you wanna say some shit though.
It's all right. So here's the thing about Eric,
Ah!
this motherfucker.
Tell them about the Holocaust. You have this funny joke.
Nope, I have no jokes about anything that could possibly be construed as bad. Well, now he's left me alone in his house, alone on his podcast. I can do anything I want to do and say anything I want to say. There's 2 memes that immediately come to mind that are things you say over air. And one of them is a guy in a hoodie with sunglasses who like turns around with the camera. You know what I'm thinking?
Fucker right in the pussy.
You know the meme.
Fucker right in the pussy.
And the other one is more politically charged that I don't want to say, but a lot of people do. So just know that he didn't do it. And then if you know the meme, you'll get there. Right.
So now we'll go dead air.
You can like definitely hear the door open perfectly over the mic.
Oh really?
Yeah. And that's like 15 feet away. That's very surprising.
Yeah, that mic doesn't compress the sound as good as the SM7B.
I thought compression was a bad thing. I thought compression was like an artifact. Is audio compression different than like data compression? Because I have no idea. Also, nobody.
Yes.
It sounded like I was talking to a wall there. You were nowhere near a mic.
I know, yeah. Yeah, I was just in the distance.
Yeah.
So, compression is, I actually know nothing about this. I've only seen...
It's when the sound waves get closer and the frequency changes.
I mean, only because, like, I've seen a lot of YouTube videos on this because I just got Logic and, this whole setup. So, I've been trying to learn as much as I can about audio engineering, and compression, I believe what it does is it smushes the audio down to
like normalizing effect.
Yeah, it's like a
peaks.
normalizer.
Your peaks are lower and your troughs are higher.
That's exactly it.
Okay, that's better than when I think compression, I think like the old YouTube beams from like 2009.
Oh, yeah.
That are like all just 280p and now, and then
The
you still
YouTube,
recognize them, and you're like, that's a copy of the 50,000th copy of that image.
Yeah.
That's what I think when I think compression. So data compression definitely different than audio compression.
That's an interesting phenomenon though, where you take a copy of something and over time it will smear into
It'll
each other.
just smear's a good word. It'll
it'll just become like amalgamated into each other.
Is that have you been on the internet enough that you start to notice that, where you like see a
Yeah.
meme and you're like, man, that has been copied a lot.
Yeah. It's
like-
a screenshot of a screenshot of a screenshot.
Yeah, and then you get that weird thing that is like definitely new to this culture, where you see the original like high def version of that like original screen grab or whatever, and you're
Yeah.
like, damn, that's a piece of history. Like that is the
Right.
Homer Simpson meme, but that's 1080p. Like that is nice. Like
my
nowhere in
God.
the history of humanity has that ever happened. Has somebody gone
Yeah.
like, nice, sweet Homer Simpson, bro?
Yeah.
Like no, that doesn't happen. And now you feel like gratified and you feel like, yeah, cool. I found
Homer
this
Simpson.
original one. I'm a cool guy now. I'm an
You know
internet
what?
historian.
You know what that has now become?
I don't know. If you say NFTs, I'm gonna
It's
slap you.
NFTs, man.
They're non-fungible tokens.
Non-fungible tokens.
I got to think of some insulting other acronym that they could be.
Non-fucking...
Not for intelligent people because they took the N off.
Intelligent. This is
It's the
he
French
speaks
version.
French. Yeah.
I remember one of my YouTubers that I watch, like I own them. One of the YouTubers that I watch
Yeah.
had a funny video where it was like how I made $100 million or something.
Yeah.
And he was
In a
just
book.
talking normally, and he was scrolling through Twitter, and every time he saw an NFT, he'd right click, copy
Yeah.
paste it.
Yeah.
And he like had a little notepad that was how much money he made. And I was like, this, and he never once in the video mentioned the word NFT or said anything.
Right. Yeah.
He was just talking about something else while he did it. And I was like, that is the most tongue-in-cheek way to address that I've ever seen. Because now anybody who's like a militant defender of the form is going to
Sure.
like search NFT and it's not going to come up. It's going to miss
Totally.
it.
Yeah.
But everybody who's watching that knows the stance
They
that
know.
it takes. And there's no way it's anything but money laundering, right? Like that.
I mean, okay. So
As somebody who's huge into crypto, like
right.
I don't own a lot, I don't have any, but the
millions.
Yeah,
He's got millions
have-
of dollars.
what is
in
it?
crypto?
point I have $50 of Bitcoin or something. Like I don't have any money in it, but I'm very pro the idea of cryptocurrency. I'm
Okay.
very-
Yeah. Decentralized power
yeah,
to the people.
and the idea of free trading.
Yeah.
I like that.
exactly. Liquidity. You can send money to Azkaban.
Yeah, just if you want to get some, whatever Azkaban sells, whatever totally legal paraphernalia Azkaban sells, you want
That's
to
right.
mentor delivered to
That's
your
right.
house,
Yeah.
give him a Bitcoin, and
Yeah.
now you got a soul sucker at your
Give
house.
the half-blooded prince some Bitcoin.
And he'll show you up with some real good blood.
Yeah.
So even
Shit.
as somebody who's very pro cryptocurrency, I do not see any redeeming fates in NFTs.
Hmm.
It's just,
But you're really into like trading cards and card games.
and I get the idea of intrinsic value,
sure.
right? Like I will go buy $100 Magic card if I think it's worth $100,
Totally.
and and maybe that's the difference as somebody who's sitting outside of the market. Somebody who sits outside of the Magic card market goes, how the hell is that worth $100? It's a piece of cardboard.
Right. Exactly.
You say yes, it's a piece of cardboard. That's half of it, by the way. Physical media.
Yeah.
That's immediately half the difference.
Right,
It's
exactly.
physically is the card I'm owning,
Physically there.
which is for the argument you also make for crypto with an NFT. It's like, but it's guaranteed to be $100. Me and everybody in my circle knows that that's worth $100. Here's the press
Right.
history of it, and I'm
Totally.
going to get $100 worth of use out of it. And I'm going to use it to play in a tournament and win, or something
Okay.
like that.
Well, here's the connection, right? Everyone knows that it's $100, right? How do they know that?
Exactly. Yeah, you use it's public opinion and the general community's knowledge that
Consensus.
agrees. Yeah,
Exactly.
consensus that it's $100.
It's almost like a bunch of computers are
the same thing with NFTs.
consenting a ledger of everyone saying it's $100. It's been confirmed to be $100.
But then no one can come in and go, "Oh, that's a sweet $100 card," and then they have it and they walk out the door with it. I don't have to go, "No, you can't right-click, copy, paste my Magic card." That
Here's the difference.
doesn't happen like it does with NFTs.
I can borrow your $100 card, copy it on my copier, and then I can technically play with it.
No, it will be such an obvious copy. You think people don't try that all the time? It happens all the time.
Exactly. Well, that's the
And they get caught every single time.
well, I mean, that's the same thing as NFTs, right? Because like if you copy an NFT, you know that's not yours because we can look at the blockchain.
And look
And
at,
we-
and that's the difference. It has a centralized, you know who the name owner is on it. But then
Totally.
it seems like it defeats the point of anonymity, which is the whole point of digital currency anyway. Oh, who bought that? And you can go
Mhm.
track it all the way through.
Well, okay, so I don't know everything about this, right? I'm not a historian of it. but
like we also mentioned, I'm outside the community also, so I don't
totally,
know anything
yeah,
either.
yeah. So we're just commenting on something we don't know.
Yeah.
But
Podcasts.
yeah. But at the same time, like what I think is going on here is you have this. I think you have a third-party ID, right?
That's independent to your personality.
Yeah, like
Okay.
you can confirmably say that
It's
is
like
mine.
Bitcoin wallets.
Yeah, without saying that is me.
It's numbered 5,208, not Eric Pullman.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. I can kind of see that.
That's just my understanding of it, and I
It's
could
still-
be wrong.
The idea of the big problem with, like you talked about, Magic cards
Yeah.
is that it is non-liquid. If I have $1,000 deck full of $100 cards, and I go, oh shit, I need to, car catches on fire, I need to buy a new car. I have to go through and resell and really spend effort to liquidize these
Mm-hmm.
to get money out of them. Cryptocurrency, not a problem. If somebody
No.
deposit cash into your account that same day, you go on Coinbase
Right.
and say withdraw, and you're done.
100%. As long as you pay the fee, you're fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is a point of currency. using a digitalized currency that also has liquidity problems. I don't like that.
Yeah.
It's saying like, oh yeah, I have my Smoking Monkey NFT, but my mortgage is coming up and I want to get ahead on it, so I'm going to sell it. I'll have to, and maybe it's just
Yeah.
like crypto. Maybe you just say sell and somebody auto buys it on an auto bid. I don't know.
Maybe. The exchanges that I've seen is, you basically put it up for like an auction, and then people bet on it, or they put up their own. What do you call that?
They do. I know none of you use crypto to do it usually.
Yeah.
They'd say it's a bidding process and say here's 61 Ethereum or something, which I think I just said a number which would have been like $60,000.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. Yeah, 61
here's,
times 3,000.
Here's 7
4,
Ethereum. There we go.
Yeah.
That's a more reasonable number.
$24,000.
Yeah, there. See,
roughly.
I know that a lot of them go for 50, 60, 70K. I've seen that before.
Yeah, fair enough. A lot of like the board
monkey
club. Yeah, there's a lot of up and coming NFT artists.
Which
smiles at camera.
Smile at camera. No, so what
which
I
you
don't
can
get,
find
though,
mine at.
So that's another thing too.
Yeah.
Where the sources. So I guess that's now you've helped me coalesce one of my thoughts on why I wasn't a fan.
Okay.
Magic cards come from Wizard of the Coast. Bitcoins come from the individual blockchains that they're associated with.
Where's mine from? Yeah.
NFTs
are minted using
by a guy who gives it who draws and gives it an ID, right?
Well, no. So it's like I can NFT anything. I can NFT this podcast. I could.
Oh, but that'd be funny.
I know, right?
Somebody pays $5 and nobody ever gets to listen to it again.
Yeah,
except for him.
Well, I think you can actually do copies of it.
Well, yeah, obviously you can always copy NFTs. That's the whole point.
Wow, how dare you?
I mean, you would never do that. That's theft.
So what you can do is like you could do this for free. By the way, there's a platform called OpenSea, and you go onto OpenSea.com. You create an account, and you can actually take any file, any photograph, any audio file for that matter, and you can upload it to this platform and mint it with Polygon.
I wonder how many copies of Never Gonna Give You Up are NFTs.
Just
that audio file.
So that's the thing. You have to actually
own it. I guess
it's
trademarked.
Yeah. So if it's like copyrighted material or if it's trademarked, then
so that's why it's independent artists.
Right.
They don't have to worry about it. They're not going to go make the entirety of season 1 of Game of Thrones an NFT.
Exactly. Yeah.
But HBO could.
Right.
HBO could come in and decide, hey, guess what? Who wants to own the Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Sell for $300,000 or something.
Well, see, I kind of like this concept, though, because it solves an inherent issue with the internet, which is copying, right?
And copyright. And so, you know what? That's maybe I would be too harsh on it, because maybe rather than viewing it as its independent vessel, I should view it as the first step towards ownership on the internet, which is a big problem.
Huge, right? Like, and there's this gatekeeping that occurs whenever you are an artist and you want to put something out on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone can copy Charlie Bit My Finger and put it up. And
it's even worse for any artist who produces drawn media or commissions. Like, I play a lot of D&D, and I always buy everything I use. Yes, sir. And just the number of stuff that you can go look and see, like Google something for, free token.
Right.
And then it's like a huge, amazing Mastercraft watercolor photo. And then like the feet are cut off. And you're like, oh, I know what the bottom of that photo was.
Yeah.
That was the artist's name and the copyright that has now just been cropped out. And it's like, and you just see pages of that.
Yep.
And it's like, man, I'm glad that I don't have to worry about that in my field. Nobody's going to go say, oh, you made $30 worth of labor. No.
Yeah.
It's mine now. Go away. I'm not paying you. Like, that doesn't happen.
I don't know. Is there anything artistic that you do, though, as far as, because you write, right?
I kind of dabbled a little bit. It's hard to keep with it. I think that I use using writing as an actual novel as a stand-in for writing, like my D&D campaigns, which is where a lot of my actual creative energy went to.
Interesting.
But I'm not very creative brained at all. Like, I can improv, I can sit down and make a goofy goblin voice for the players quickly and easily. But if you say, hey, go draw anything or plan a layout of something, go make go woodwork or something, I don't have that sort of spatial creativity at all.
That's really interesting.
Narrative creativity, I can nail that. I can do that every day.
Totally, yeah.
And I make you think that I planned it all along. I can do that easily. But then you say, like, yeah, but then, like, what's he look like? And you're like, it's got, like, brown hair. He's, like, 5'8", and
But he's an elf. Shouldn't
Yeah.
he have white hair?
yeah, he's like, and his name is on. I have a list over here. I made his name. That was
Yeah.
cool. It's like girl strong jaw, but then, yeah, he's hot. Like it's just it's not there.
Right,
And if it's like,
okay.
yeah, go draw a. Even if you sat down and gave me like the world's best police sketch artist,
Yeah.
like tell me what it looked like. You're like, what was how close together his eyes? And he'd be like, average. How big is his nose? A little
Oh my
smaller than normal.
God.
Like I don't
Is there
have
that level of detail? How close are their eyes?
That's a thing, yeah. I mean, when you see those police sketches that are just spot on,
Right.
they know
yeah.
every leading question to ask. I think a lot of it too is just practice. If you're doing it for 30 years, you can kind of gauge the question too.
Yeah.
But I mean, you'll see those photos and then you'll see photos that are way off. But
Totally.
apparently, eyewitnesses are also historically untrustworthy.
Super untrustworthy.
Yeah.
And that's like the premier form of evidence in the judiciary system.
I think like video cameras are probably more
That's
prevalent
true.
nowadays.
Yeah, the video camera, DNA, that's above all else.
But historically, through humanity's history, it was
Yeah.
just eyewitnesses.
eyewitness
I saw
account.
her get on a broom and fly away.
Yeah.
No, you did not, because that's not a thing.
That's not physically possible. And that's why I love like our field, right? Because you could say, well, that's not physically
So,
possible.
yeah, I will go spend 40 hours of my week to prove that what you've done
Yeah,
is
yeah.
wrong.
Exactly. There's no possible way. And let me prove that for you. Here's a bunch of physics
Yeah.
equations.
Here's 2 times I did everything I could to possibly get that, and it did
Right.
not work.
Yeah.
So, no, I can empirically say that you are a liar.
Right. If this were true, these 5 other things would be true, and we all know that this is false, that is false as well. So you can like go down and logically say what is true and what is false.
Yeah, and that is why I like being a scientist, because what I hated in school growing up was like English papers.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned, I can do narrative writing,
yeah.
and I would write these whole beautiful things, and they'd be like B+.
Yeah.
And like, okay, what did I do that doesn't deserve an A?
Right,
And you're like,
right.
it just wasn't good enough. And you're like,
I didn't like it.
yeah. I didn't like the character's arc in the middle where he like struggled with himself, and I felt like that kind of tainted my opinion of him
Right.
throughout the whole narrative. And you're like, that's the point.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make a Mary Sue who was just good at it. I wanted him to doubt himself. And then it's like, no,
I didn't like it.
B.
B.
And it's like, oh, okay. And then you go take a science class, and it's like, yeah, you got 92% yield, so you got a 92.
Yeah.
You probably like lost some liquid in the middle, and you go, oh yeah, I did, and that's it. And you know the grade you got, and you deserved it.
Right. Or
And
you could fight with your professor and say, actually, 92% yield is actually very good for this.
Yeah.
If you take my other colleagues, for example, who only got 70.
Yeah. And you think they deserve a 70? Like,
I mean, come on now. Let's.
now, what did the validation for this method that you ran by yourself? Did
Right.
you get the same amount?
Fair
Which,
enough.
by the way, have been super burned on that before.
Ah.
But definitely, like, they're the teachers who are there because they're graduate teachers who are doing research
Right,
and are
right.
good at their job.
100%.
And they're like, I ran this lab this morning and I got 100%. And you're like, damn.
That's incredible. Go
I-
you.
You deserve. Then you say the argument. Do I have to be you to get an A? Do only grad students or grad professors get A's?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
do I not deserve an A? But still, they make that argument. You go, it's not literally possible to do this. And they go, yes, it is. I did it. And you go, well, shit.
Damn it.
Yeah. Well, I want to be like you just try to just take all the wind right out of your sails.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the coolest part about it is you can argue your position.
Which I remember in organic. I don't remember if it was 1 or 2,
Mm.
but I retook both of those classes. I'm not going to be too proud to pretend that I was a bad student and worked full time. I won't pretend my grades were great.
Oh, yeah.
But
100%. Like,
I was doing a lab, and I remember that it was a lab that I struggled with the year before.
yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is the limiting reagent, and it says approximately, so I'm just gonna go ahead and add like a couple extra drops.
Nice.
And I was like, because now I got the most yield in the class by far,
Fuck yeah.
and the grad assistant who was the lab professor there was like, you have the
Right.
best anybody's ever done. And I was like, well, it said I had approximately 5 mils, and I added like 5.7.
Right.
That's not the method. Like, you didn't add 5. You didn't follow the method. And I said, it said approximately.
That's true.
It told me that I didn't have to go get a volumetric and do 5.
Yeah.
And I knew that adding 5.7 would give me literally perfect results,
Mm-hmm.
which it did. You'll notice. So, no.
Maybe you should update your fucking method.
Yeah, if you said 5.0 with a volumetric, then I'd be like, all right, yeah,
Yeah.
you got it.
Uh-huh.
But it didn't. And so I didn't.
Right. Exactly.
And really, shouldn't I not be rewarded for knowing the science enough to prove to what the problem was?
Yeah. Yeah. And I guarantee people have done it before you,
Yeah, and not admitted to it.
and they just weren't transparent about it. Yeah, this is the same thing about the bookstore.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
I just am an honest guy, and that's
Yeah.
the big problem. That has been an
Not a
issue with
problem,
me
by the way.
historically in my whole life.
I
Yeah,
think that
officer,
makes
I
you-
was going a little fast. Sorry.
Right, exactly. Admit to crimes
Yeah, just don't do that.
publicly.
Just I speed a lot.
Yeah?
Like a lot. Just what?
I'm actually transporting methamphetamine. It's in the trunk. Like,
Right now. That's where I got to go after this. I got a meeting.
Yeah, I got a meeting with a guy. You want to come with? We need the extra security. He's
Trust
kind
me,
of
I got me and 4 friends, and I need a 5th.
Yeah.
I think speeding's probably the only illegal thing that.
Oh, yeah.
But
and-
it's like kind of this weird, just everybody
It's gray
does.
area, yeah.
Like if you just sit at the speed limit,
Yeah.
you are the so far bottom of the bell curve.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Because we look at limits as scientists and we're like, that is either exactly what I need to get or more than.
Or going past that triggers an emergency stop.
Right.
That I have
exactly.
now, oh shit, there's a process
Yeah.
of stopping here.
So,
But
like,
a speed limit is the recommendation for that area.
it's kind of like a midpoint.
I don't even know if it's that. I think
Yeah.
it's like, it's definitely the recommended like neighborhood. Like if it says 70, you'll
Right.
pass people going 60. And you're like, oh, their car's shaking. Cool. And then you'll be going to 77, 75. And then you'll
Right.
get somebody scream past you.
Oh, yeah. 90
And
in a
you're like-
black BMW.
Yeah,
And
and
you're
you're
like,
like-
why in the fuck is that dented?
I wonder why that has body damage. Weird, moving on. And then they'll pass a cop. And you're like,
Yeah.
he's going to get pulled over.
Haha.
And then the
Karma.
cop will stay there. And you're like, I guess that's fine.
Yeah. This is permissible.
He was going
somehow.
89 and we're cool with this.
Right,
I
right.
guess I'm going to go 79 now. Like it's just that happens.
Yeah.
Where so that's a weird cultural thing that's happened now where it's not really even it's definitely illegal. You'll get fined hundreds of dollars. I got a speeding ticket like 6 months ago for like 11 over in a park, which
Really?
I think I remember telling you this. He was moving towards me down a hill and I was
Yeah.
going forward and he said I was going like 55.
And you were like, prove it, bitch.
And I was like, there's literally no way that's possible.
Yeah.
Like I hadn't even shifted gears yet. And in my big, huge crossover car, like I
Yeah.
was not going 55. Like I was going 20 and you could have been going 33.
Right,
Like
right.
I don't believe that. But then it ended up being, a speeding ticket that I'd have to get a lawyer for 2 states away.
Yeah.
And or just pay like $180.
Oh,
and
they
it's like,
know that,
okay,
too.
how much are the lawyers going to be? And they're like,
Right.
$200. It's like, I'm going to pay more money to fight this and maybe lose
That's a
than
good
I
point.
will to just pay it. And so it's just got strong armed into saying, yeah, whatever, I was going 50. I don't
But-
care.
Have you ever represented yourself
I have actually twice.
in a court of law?
Oh, once.
Yeah. What happened?
I had another time. I got pulled over speeding because of delivering pizzas,
Okay.
and it was this part of town where the speed limit drops from 45 to 35.
Yeah.
And he pulled me over, and I was pulled over at the sign for 35. I remember my car was parallel to it,
Oh, okay.
and
yeah.
he wrote the speeding ticket for 50 and a 35 because he saw me going 50 back down the road.
Right.
And I remember getting the ticket and being like, "This is insane." You
Yeah.
just wrote me 15 over, and I would think I was going 49 in
Yeah.
the 45
Exactly.
because I know that 5 over is a decent break point for a lot of stuff. I remember being infuriated by it. And I ended up going to court, and my boss was like, just go say it. Go tell the judge that. I was like, oh,
Right.
no, he's a judge. I don't want to do that. He's like,
Yeah.
my boss is like, you're going to pay a couple $100 in fines if you don't.
Right.
Like, just go. I remember going to like this arraignment, and they're like, oh, you were going 15 over. How do you plead? And I was like, I'll plead guilty if you drop it to 9 over because I don't want points on my license. If you look at the ticket, you'll see where the address is and see that that's where the speed limit changes. And the judge like kind of looked once at his paperwork and he goes, it'll be the same fine because it's a city fine. It's a maximum on it. He's like, are
Yeah.
you fine with that? And I said, yeah, I just don't want the points. And the
Yeah.
prosecutor, he goes, looked at the prosecutor, said, are you fine with that? He said, yeah, I don't care. And he said, yeah, okay, fine, 9 over. And then rang his gavel. And I was like, neat. And then walked over and paid it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. But the end result was I got paid the maximum fine
Yeah.
that I shouldn't have
Definitely not.
for something I didn't do. So then I walked away going, hell yeah. And then like years later, I was like, I kind of got scammed anyway.
A little bit.
I even played that system to the best of my knowledge, and I
Yep.
still basically agreed to saying I was going 4 miles an hour faster than I was
Yeah.
to pay more money.
And not to mention, they treat you like a fucking asshole if you represent yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, I don't know if that's really what I did because it was arraignment. It wasn't a
Okay.
court date. So I think representing yourself
Gotcha.
means an actual court date. Whereas mine was an arraignment.
I don't know.
It was
I don't
me
know.
and 50 people in a rural Kansas courtyard.
Maybe they're a little kinder in that
They were
environment.
polite, yeah.
Yeah.
And I gave them, $180 or whatever, so I'm sure they didn't care.
Have you ever thought about a public defender?
I've heard mixed reviews.
Yeah, I've
I've
heard
heard-
that they fucking fall asleep.
I've heard that there are public defenders who just want to retire.
Yeah,
Just want to be a public defender till they die. And then there's public defenders who want to be a city prosecutor and will be the best lawyer in the county. And I don't know if you have, and as by the nature of a public defender,
right.
you have no control over which of those you get. So
That's true. Yeah.
I feel like usually if you're having legal issues, you don't want to take a coin flip. Doesn't seem to be the kind of thing that you want to.
No.
Man, am I gonna live happy life? Oh nope, going to jail. Like that's not. I don't.
I still feel like you get paid enough to like pay attention though. Right.
I mean, it's just like anything. There are good and bad people of every profession.
right.
Like that's what they talk about a lot of times. Nurses have like immediate, legal battles surrounding it, and it's like
right.
it shouldn't be illegal to be bad at your job. Like
yeah. Well, there's malpractice, right?
yeah, and that's the thing. Like
Yeah.
if you say something, oh, she missed this, like that. Okay, negligent. There has to be a defining limit for
Right,
that.
right.
Like
You're responsible for
if
someone's life.
I'm working 40 hours a week and 2 of those hours I'm kind of sleepy and I'm not doing a good job, I'm not going to hurt anybody
That's true.
in that. But
You
if
could
I
hurt
do,
yourself.
now is it a felony? Like that's an interesting thing to get that I have to like. I know a lot of people that I talk about like, oh my God, they should go to jail for that. I'm like,
Right.
it's not illegal to be bad at your job. It becomes a whole different issue if
Yeah.
you're a nurse. But I mean, if the UPS guy is shitty at his job and your product doesn't show up on time, he doesn't go to jail for that.
He
You shouldn't be able to send him to jail for that.
Right. We shouldn't give government the ability.
To just like really crack it down on. We're already
Yeah.
so hyper focused on production, and
Right.
that if it now becomes illegal to do a poor job, oh my God, I can't imagine the implications as a society.
Yeah,
Of what
exactly.
that would do.
You know who gets hurt? Poor people.
Like always,
Like always.
it's the scapegoat of society.
yeah, poor people.
Just like the legal system
Yet
we just talked
again.
about.
Yeah.
Just
And then, yeah, in order to represent yourself, now you have to, you can either represent yourself or you can get a public defender who might not be good. I mean, it's a coin flip, right?
and then if you're representing yourself, your best case scenario there is that you're putting yourself up against somebody who's done it for a living and
Right.
gone to school for it for years
exactly.
and had an entire support structure of mentors to teach them how to put you in the dirt for thinking to do
Right.
that.
Yeah, you are playing chess, not knowing how to move the
Yeah,
pieces. with
you're
Carl
playing chess against
Magnus?
yeah,
Is that his name?
Magnuson?
Magnus?
Magnus?
Magnum Dong.
Yeah, him,
Yeah.
Mr. Massive Dong,
That's right.
with a book titled
Huge.
"How to Play Chess."
yeah.
But you basically have to hope that he
Yeah.
feels bad for you or he fucks up because
Right.
nothing you say will win. They
Yeah.
go, it turns out actually the arresting officer did something wrong and it's an illegal
Yeah.
play. You win. And you go, neat, thanks. That's the only world that you win.
Yeah, it's just they're kind to you.
Or if actually the way you win is you sit down and they see you and they go, oh, you're going to play me? And you go, uh-huh. And they go, that's
Yeah.
not worth my time. And then
Yeah.
they walk away. That's how you win, is they drop
Yeah,
the case. They're
uh-huh.
like, he's representing himself. I don't want to go to court.
Wow,
What-
he sat down at the table.
Yeah.
All
You know
right, we'll
what?
drop it.
Yeah, he's got an argument. It's not one that I can easily
Right.
dismantle. It's going to actually take more than one day of trials, so we're good.
And they did that math like in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Nope.
But we're good. And then they walk away and you go, I won! It's like,
Yay,
you
I'm
didn't
a
win.
lawyer.
They didn't play.
Yeah.
It's just very different.
Yeah. And that's our legal system, and we're sticking to it.
Our legal system, I'm not experienced in.
Me neither.
And you hear about a lot of problems and issues with it.
yeah.
But it's good to have one.
definitely.
And
Totally better than
you
Russia.
hear foreign countries that have legal systems that make ours look so much better, but you also have ones that make ours look so much worse. And so you think, I don't have enough knowledge to know if this is the best or worst version of it.
No.
You get your massively polarizing stuff, like teenagers going to jail for stuff that their parents did because they're
Right.
16 and get tried as adult. And
Petty crime.
yeah, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, that's awful, but is that better than just a judge or an oligarch somewhere just deciding arbitrarily, yeah, you're cool,
Yeah.
or yeah, you're not? Like,
I think the whole idea of that is decentralization, right?
I think we were talking about this in the car yesterday.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
actually remember that. I remember the argument I made where I talked about like people talk about like, yeah, he broke into a car.
Yeah.
You hear that sentence at any different like socioeconomic area in the United States, and it has entirely different implications.
It really does.
If you
Yeah.
think he broke into a car and you're in a downtown metropolitan area
Hmm.
and it's an unlocked, abandoned car, nobody cares.
No.
That's not. Now, if you're in
No
a
one
rural
gives a shit.
area
Yeah.
and you had to go out of your way to go to where the car is stored to break into it,
Right.
there's obviously that's way worse.
Yeah.
And then if you're in a subdivision, okay, you didn't live there. You had to go through an area that's not for public throughput area. Had to go out of your way to then go break into a car. It's even worse. So having the constables or the lawyers be aware of what the cultural idea is in that area is an entirely different idea. Or if you think, like, yeah, man, he ran over, he shot a dog. Like, you hear that and you're like, oh my God, that's insane.
Yeah. Why would he do that?
Unless he's a sheep farmer and that's his neighbor's dog killing a sheep. He's in the
Yeah.
right there.
Or it's like a wild feral dog.
Yeah, it's the original owners have it off a chain and it's running around through the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it's not even a neighborhood; it's a rural middle no area. But if you live in suburbia and you think, yeah, he shot a dog. A, why does he have a gun?
Yeah.
And B, why did he shoot that dog?
Right.
He's not protecting any crops or livestock out there. That shouldn't
There's
happen.
no reason to shoot a dog.
Or
yeah.
you live in like Australia, he shot a dog. Why does he have a gun?
Yeah.
There's an entirely different cultural idea to that sentence depending on where you're at.
Exactly. No matter where you're at, you're going to have a different interpretation of what a crime is and what that entails and what the punishment should be. So
it helps to have a little bit of individual
definitely.
judge authority.
Yeah.
But you don't want them to be the final do all say all, which is where decentralization is perfect for that.
Right, where it doesn't come from the top down and you have to say, well, the president said that you should be executed.
Yeah. Turns out any violence towards a dog, capital punishment.
Capital punishment, sorry.
Because he's got a really cute Labrador and can't imagine. And it's like, I was going to not eat this year if he killed the rest of my sheep. And they're like, yeah, well, you're not going to eat this year anyway, weirdly enough. So guess you're succeeding.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I think that the idea of that though is decentralization always allows for the most productive society. I think in any aspect.
Historically hate saying anything that is always or never.
Oh, that's a fair point. Always hate.
I always hate
absolute
the
statements.
The word never.
Yeah.
The Jedi, what's the do not speak in absolutes, and it's like, what's that sentence?
Right.
Stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a fun maxim.
Yeah, you're like, that is an interesting idea. So is this like a test by me realizing that that's flawed?
Right.
Do I pass, or am I
Yes,
now?
you always pass.
Yeah, it's like, or am now I not good enough to be indoctrinated, so I fail?
Right.
This is
Wait
I'll just nod and pretend that I understand.
Yeah. No, I feel like that trends toward a more productive society, I believe.
Yeah, that's
you take it into economics, you get capitalism, you decentralize capitalism, and you have all of us striving to be rich, right? Well, not rich, but enough to get by.
Oh, I mean, everybody's striving to be rich.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I feel like
that the goal of saying the people who are always striving to be one socioeconomic class higher than they are,
right,
which is not the definition of rich.
Yeah,
but that's kind of a synonym there.
Almost
the people at the poverty level just want a house to live in and food to eat. And the people who are at that level just want to be able to take a vacation twice a year.
Right.
The people at that level just want a second house. The people who are at that level just want to be able to import and export whatever they want to.
Yeah.
The people at that level just want to be able to affect governmental policy. So it's this weird sliding scale that's just like humanity.
And it's like orders of magnitude too.
Yeah, and that's the issue with decentralization is the scale in the world now. I can go right now with the gas that I have in my car and the money in my wallet and just literally see anywhere in the United States for sure. And I have a passport, so actually I could probably see most of the world fairly easily.
Congratulations.
Yeah, passport's easy. Everybody should have a passport. It's insane not to have one. I'm just throwing that out there. I've been to one other foreign country. I went to Niagara Falls and I went to Canada. It was cool, but I have a passport, and I have a level of confidence and security now.
Right.
It's just if my wallet gets stolen, I don't have ID. I can just be like, nope, I am Nathan Suthoff. This is the highest form of legally binding identification.
Fair enough.
It says, and my wife actually was a form of stress because my driver's license had my middle name misspelled, and it had been for a while, and we didn't notice it.
Does it say Brian?
It says Brian instead of Byron.
Yeah.
And she was stressing out about it, and I go, I have a passport. I don't, and it's spelled correctly.
Yeah.
I don't care. If my driver's license is wrong, it doesn't matter at all. If there ever is the weird eclipsing situations that make it matter to where I need this identification insanely bad.
Right.
I have the passport, which I don't think is likely to happen.
No.
But you always stress about things that aren't likely to happen anyway. I get weird stress because my belly button itches too much. Like, I don't know what that is that forms anxiety.
Get that checked out, man.
No, like it's not. It's I don't know why that's an anxiety trigger for me.
Yeah.
It's like definitely like a body horror thing where I'm like, oh man, there's like something on my belly button, and then I like feel myself start your spine. I'm like, stop.
Why does that itch?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And it's like, and I got a gut, and so now I'm fat, and then it's just like this anxiety that just I don't know what it is about the belly button that's happened 2 or 3 times now. And I can start to kind of feel the onset of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's no reason to have any anxiety about that in the slightest.
Right.
So,
but you know yourself enough to know that that's going to trigger that.
Yeah. And so it's normal and that happens. Right. But so if I had a piece of paper that could say, I will stop this anxiety because I have the anti-itch paperwork. Like, I would love that. And I feel like having I just forgot the name, passport. I was like, Visa. That's not right. I don't have a credit card. Having a passport helps that and a lot of different... And if I decide, I kind of somebody says, hey, I have tickets to go to Borboros and they're gonna get wasted and they're on for Friday. Do you want them? I can go
Boro Boro. I can get that fucking out of here.
Yeah. Oh, I only go to Cuba. I don't go to Boro Boro. Yeah. I can go hell yeah. And grab the tickets and fly. That's a weird thing to think it's gonna happen because it's not. It's the opposite of an anxious event. It's being excited about something that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Never. Versus being anxious about something that's going to happen.
And never. How long does your state ID last?
State IDs are... I mean, we can look. Your driver's license is 6 years after you're 25?
No, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Expires 2025, issued
2019.
2019. So 6 years.
Okay.
And your passport's 10.
10 years.
I think it's either 10 or then it's 5 if you're under 20. There's like a break point.
So it's like $100, but you have that for 10 years. Yeah. So that's what, $10 a year?
I think that even if you have an expired one, and you're not trying to leave the country, it's still a valid form of identification. I'm fairly sure.
Yeah.
I'm, again, not a lawyer, but I think that if you say, I'm sorry, officer, my wallet got stolen. Here's my passport. Like, it's expired, but it's literally a photo of me and all of my information on it.
This is legal advice.
Yeah, I think that saying that immediately proves that you have no backing in law because you're just somebody somewhere just face palmed him. I can't believe he just said that. Oh
this
my
is
God.
Not only legal advice, but financial advice
from an institution. Yeah, no, do not take this with a grain of salt. Do not do that ever.
Yeah. So we are portraying characters and
who are idiots.
Yeah, who are idiots, and nothing we say here is legally binding.
Or real, let's just say that.
Or real.
Yeah. We're just total. We walk in through the door and assume identities.
Exactly. Yeah. So my name's not actually Eric Pullman. It's Derek.
Don't say it. I got to make a different one.
Yeah.
Eric Derek. The football player.
Eric Derek Pullman. That's my actual full name.
Full legal name.
My full legal name is Eric Derek Pullman.
Because your mom has a sick sense of, or parents have a sick sense of humor.
Yeah. Don't assume.
Sorry. Yeah. Who are you naming? Well, I mean, historically, mothers do. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, you think so?
I would guess so.
I gotta ask my mom. Who am I named after?
I'm named after my mom's dad as my middle name.
See, that makes sense.
So that would lead you to assume, you don't assume that your dad go, hey, let's name it after your dad. You assume that your mom goes, hey, we name it after your dad. So maybe that's just me, like, inserting my own opinion on the way the world works because of my name, which is fair.
Byron.
Yeah, it's a cool name. I like it.
Where's that from?
Yeah, it's just his first name. His middle name? Ooh, I should know this.
Yeah.
No, it's his middle name. He was Walter Byron.
Okay.
Yeah. Somewhere my mom listened to this and she just had a heart attack. And now she's like, thank God.
No.
It is not his first name.
Yeah, I told you so
many times. She would never sound like that. She'd just be disappointed.
Right.
Yeah, that sound. That'd be more.
The tongue click.
And then getting it right and go, okay. Like that'd be it.
I need to tell him.
I can't believe he doesn't know that. Doesn't know Corinne's name either.
Right.
What's her middle name? Rose? That doesn't sound right.
Yeah. Middle names are actually really important for females.
Really?
And I've thought about this because, if you you will often see people or women in specifically have their first and middle name, right? It's a lot more important than it is for a guy's middle name.
Huh. I wonder where that is.
No one fucking knows my middle name. I think it's
I know your middle name.
funny to say it's Derek,
Yeah.
but
Because I think it took weeks of conversation until you finally told me.
right, exactly.
Or like saw
exactly.
your driver's license one time and I was like, aha!
Yeah, but
Which
it's
I won't
you
say
know,
aloud. You're welcome.
if it's Carol, right? Then she'll go by like Carol Ann or something. Like
Huh. I guess I never noticed that.
her middle name's very important, and I think where that comes from is traditionally when women take the last name.
Oh, because
of the
maiden
husband.
names and the last names change. It is
Last
a
name
larger
change.
percentage of their identifying.
Exactly.
Okay,
Middle names don't change.
that's a good point. That makes sense. You want to hear something weird?
Yeah.
All but one of the people I've dated in my life have had the same middle name.
Really?
Yeah.
Anne?
Nope.
Uh,
What is my wife's middle name?
that's a good question.
Yeah, that's a hard question.
I should have posed that question to you. I mean,
Yeah. That question, I don't think it's answered across people like, in basically in a social circle.
right.
It's like asking, "What's your best friend's birthday?"
April 12th.
You're close. You're 5
Yeah.
days off. April 17th. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah.
See,
I
and
was-
I always say that because I'm terrible at birthdays.
Right.
But the two people that I know and talk to the most in my life, Fred and Casey.
Fred and Eric.
Fred and Eric.
Yeah.
You're right up there. They both are so good with birthdays that they'll say it. And then it takes all the wind out of my sails, and I'm like, am I just an asshole? Because I have no. Yours is June or July. I have a 60-day
June.
window. And they're like, yeah,
That's not a month.
do the same thing you do, where they're like 5 days off. I'm like,
Yeah.
is this a mental block that I have that I just
Well,
don't know birthdays?
Okay, so for me, it's not that bad, right? Because I barely know any numbers whatsoever. You, however, are very good with numbers,
Oh.
and so that actually does kind of make you a dick.
Yeah, but dates are different though.
Dick.
It's you are a dick.
Yeah.
Dates are like not just integers though.
Like
Like maybe that's the thing.
they totally are.
But they're not to me. Like that's
Yeah.
a mental break that I have
0417.
differently. So no, I know, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
There's when I was growing up, I
Last four of my
was
social
really
security.
bad about months.
Okay.
And when I would be working at Papa John's, and people would be like, "It's 07/21," and I'd be like, okay, like I would
Yeah.
actually sit there and have to think it through.
I get so pissed off when like we look at the label on the VWR labels and they always fucking change it from like
Month, day to day, month.
Yeah. They'll either say April or they'll put 04. But when they put fucking June or July, I will always put the wrong.
That's your mental switch. You're
Yeah.
You're like, 7, even though that's
Yeah.
not the right one at all. See, it took me literally years of giving people credit card information over the phone for me to have a not good, but a passable knowledge of what month numbers are what.
Right.
And I was
Yeah.
like 26. Like, that is just embarrassing.
Well,
But even now, somebody's like, March 3rd, and I'm like, 3.
Yeah.
Like, it's not immediately.
like it's a toss up. That's
Yeah.
either 3 or 5.
Yep. Yeah, and then it's like June. Sick. It's like
Yeah.
it's not
You
right
gotta-
away.
yeah,
It takes
yeah,
a
you gotta think
second.
about it, especially if it's written JUL
Yeah.
or JUN.
The neuron that fires that we've determined is taking longer than it should doesn't happen
Yeah.
until the third letter.
Exactly.
It doesn't start at the
exactly.
beginning.
And it often gets forgotten by that point.
Which I've had people too. Some of the most annoying conversations, people are like, "Yeah, it's like 6/11." And I'm like, "Okay, it's June 11th." Like, "No, it's July." And I'm like, "One of us is wrong.
Yeah.
Is it?" And you just hear
Well,
like
now I have to rethink my calendar.
you gotta look at the wall. You're like, "Well, it's April, so that doesn't help me at all." May, June. Okay, so it's sick. Like that happens. If I had a birthday that wasn't in like January or December,
Yeah.
it wasn't separated enough from the beginning of the year because those are easy. 12 and 1 are easy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
mine's in April, so 4. It's separated
Right.
just enough that I can use it as an anchor point for half the year. It took me a long time to
Yeah.
get through like August, September.
Right. Fuck that calendar.
Yeah.
August.
What's the Twitter post like? Man, whatever reason that November isn't
Yeah.
the 9th and October isn't the 8th month should be shot, and they're
Yeah.
like, or should be stabbed. And
Yeah,
they're like,
yeah.
boy, do I have some good news for you.
Julius Augustus Caesar.
got the shit stabbed out of him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I'd hope it's like a time traveler.
Well-
It's like somebody who's in like the accounting field in like
Right.
3011 when we're still using this Gregorian calendar, and he just like shows up and he's like, all right, you know what? I got some work to do.
Well, guess who doesn't have a month?
Yeah.
Fucking Brutus. Guess who has the last laugh?
Yeah, and it's like Brutus is sitting there afterwards, and he's like, "Man,
Yeah.
should I like rename my month? And the accountant's like, no,
Uh-uh.
I will absolutely stab you right
Yeah.
now. Just like, yeah, sorry, I didn't know this was a trigger for you. He's like, yeah, we're staying how it is.
Yeah.
And then he disappears.
You know what? I heard this really good YouTube video. I was watching this YouTube video about this guy, Scott Flanagan, I believe is his name. He's the human calculator. He can calculate numbers faster than anyone on the planet.
That's insane.
So he'll start out with like 2, 4, 6, 8, like, and he'll just like, he will at a rapid rate compound numbers.
I can't imagine. So that has to be the thing where nobody's neural pathways are the exact same.
No, definitely.
And it's like I have a really muddled bad one about months. That definitely has to be a thing to where numbers to him are just like matrix points, and it's just super easy to just like boop boop and pick them.
Right.
So that has. I wonder. I've frequently wondered like, what are the other people who are like that don't realize it? Like there's some cook somewhere who can literally scoop it and go like 0.38 grams.
Yeah.
And like they'll never know that that's a thing.
And they don't know that other people can't do that.
Yeah, they just assume that that's normal.
So they're like, scoop 0.8.
Why are people not
like,
good at baking?
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine that.
Right.
And then he's over there like at some point realizing people are using calculators, and he's like, oh, wait a minute.
Hold up.
Nobody can do this like I can.
Well, Elon Musk had that, right? Like early on, it was about 5 years old when he realized like everybody doesn't have this exploding of ideas always happening in their brain.
See, I think there's a sweet spot where it's like your good amount of confidence versus like empathy, which if you have either of those in the two levels, you'll never get that realization.
Yeah, yeah.
If you just have no self-confidence and all the empathy, like everybody else is super good at everything they do.
Oh my
I'm
God.
not special.
All the upsides of autism, but no downsides.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you get the opposite of that, where you're like, I'm the best, but you will literally never realize that other people don't have that ability.
Yeah.
You'll think everything that you do is just special because you're cool, not because you have,
right, exactly. And you're just walking around like Nikola Tesla and just
swaggering.
Yeah, swaggering around at the rates of pi, right? And you're stepping to the golden ratio.
Yeah, that's just autism. That's all that is. There's no big spin there. That's like if I don't take 3.14 steps, I'm going to hurt myself. Like that.
Yep.
You are hindering your development and your social skills, and you're walking. You're not walking twice as far to just make your brain work better.
You're putting all these limitations on you for no reason.
Did I tell you about the professor I had that was definitely autistic?
Oh, where he's like mumbling the whole time.
Yeah, he was a physics professor, and he'd taught for like years and years and years.
And
he'd show up and, hello class, we're gonna come in. And he'd be like, oh man, I'm in the back, I can't hear this at all.
Yeah.
And then somebody would ask him a question, and he would get super flustered, and like you'd feel bad for him. Yeah, he'd like clench up, and he'd look down, and he would like write the answer on the board and like mumble, and he'd be like, okay. And you're like, okay, I feel bad.
Yeah.
And then somebody would say, hey, professor, I have this question that I found online. So it's not like it's a textbook.
Right.
He doesn't have an answer to it.
No pre.
And he'd write it down, and he'd be like, yeah, so this is like sine of this whole angle times like big numerical term times like some other integer number somewhere. And he goes, that's like what, 0.75? I haven't even put it in my calculator yet, man. It's like 0.741. He's like, neat. And then you write it down.
He's like, yeah, because that's square root of 2/3.
Yeah, he's like, because that's the square root of 121. And you're like, I guess they're. And you're like, okay. And so I remember thinking the first time I did that, I was like, man, I can't believe they have this guy teach like an intro level class.
Right.
Like this is just, I feel it's like bullying at this point.
That's a good point.
And then he did that, and I was like, oh. He's just a really good physicist.
Yeah.
He does not need a calculator to grossly estimate anything he wants.
And see, people like that belong in like a research institution.
Which is probably why he was teaching first level class. Yeah. Because he probably does research. Like, what's the thing that teachers have to have an X number of like teaching hours? So if you teach one class with a ton of people, it's worth more than like two classes with less people.
That's
so
a good point. Yeah,
just does that one class and he's good for the year. It's probably how it works out.
I hope so.
My mom could know. She's taught for way too many years. So,
but that whole system is just not set up for that personality type.
Yeah, he is probably. You'd assume that type of person is probably one of the best researchers they have.
Exactly.
There.
Yeah.
And then he's forced to be now one of the worst teachers they have.
Right.
Which seems unfair.
And what you need is people that are exceptional at communication on the front lines of the intro classes. Otherwise, why would you think that scientists have such a lull in enrollment?
I think that might be the thing. I think that science, especially your hard STEM fields, naturally gravitate towards people who don't have that sort of charisma and sort of communication ability.
Definitely not.
And that then they do put their best forward, and it's still pretty bad.
Yeah.
They say, this is the most communicative person we have, and he will insult you regularly, and you will hate him.
Right. Right.
And it's like, okay, that's just a bad teacher. And you take the next class, and you go, oh no, he is the good one.
He's kind of the norm.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's had that moment somewhere in their life.
Well, I don't know,
You
because
go to like a fast food place and you have a bad experience, and you're like,
Right.
I was just that person. And then you go
Yeah.
again, you're like, that's just
wow,
Popeyes.
this is a culture.
Yeah, that happens.
Well, that is true, but at the same time, I feel like I've had a lot of good instructors along the way. So this is anecdotal, but some of the best professors I've ever have come from the STEM field. And
I think because a lot of them tend to be just very passionate.
Okay, yeah,
Like they're in the STEM field because they're not. People go to get business degrees not because they like business, because they just want to
Right.
get done with college.
yeah, they want
people-
to make money.
Yeah, people go into
Yeah.
biochem because they either want to be a doctor or because they love
Right.
biochem.
Exactly.
It's not attracting people outside the field, and so
Mhm.
that is crystallized on your professors. The people who stuck through it for the postgrad, doctorate process, they love it enough to do it that much, and they're very passionate. Passion is what you need from a teacher. Which is why having research professors who don't want to teach is a bad idea, because they're not going to be passionate for teaching at all.
Like kicking and screaming in the front of the class.
Yeah, and then you ask them a question that's interesting, and they'll come to life, and they'll be like, oh yeah, actually it's because of this paradox here. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
neat, hell yeah.
awesome.
And they're like, what about the test? I'm like, I guess. Like,
yeah,
like it just immediate deflates them.
Ugh.
You've seen that before.
I definitely have seen that before.
One of my favorite teachers now, I hated as an undergrad.
Okay.
Part of it because he was really, really intelligent and had
Yeah.
a really bad job. Like, if you'd ask him a question, he'd be like, oh, yeah, it's this. And he'd be like, I don't have the shortcuts to get there.
Right.
He's like, oh. And then he would, okay, sorry. And then he'd try it again.
Yeah.
And eventually he tried enough times that it would work.
Yeah.
But he was an extremely good job of just being a relatable and approachable human being. And we had the way that my school did their classes was awful. But all of us had like organic and inorganic, and we had tests the same day. And we had emailed him like, hey, teach, we have tests tomorrow. Is there any way we can push this back? And he's like, yeah, that's fine. I haven't written it yet. So if anybody wants to take it tomorrow, they can, but we're going to do it Friday.
Yeah.
I remember being like, he hasn't written it yet. It's 12 hours before.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't started studying yet. Oh, we're the same person.
right.
All right.
Right.
Yes.
Oh, this never ends.
Yeah, you're like,
this never ends.
he's just me in 30 years with a PhD. Yeah, all right.
Oh my
Cool.
god.
So many things make sense now. Moving on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is in the same department as the teacher who was
Yeah.
the absolute king of bullshit. And you could not. He was just an iron wall of bullshit.
Uh-huh.
I remember you'd go talk to him about something and he'd be like, oh, I actually thought that it was like this. And he's like, no, you didn't. You just didn't do this. And you're like, well, I thought about, no, it wouldn't land.
Yeah.
And so you'd be like, yeah, so I didn't know what that equation was. So I thought it looked a lot like this one. And I got like half the answer. So I doubled it. And it was like about right. And he's like, all right. Just like,
yeah.
I'll give you 10% of the points. And you're like, I'll take it. It's 10% more than I deserved because I didn't know what I deserve 0. And then you move on.
Well, and as a professor, you want to know that. You want to have accurate feedback so you could say, okay, well, I'd say 60% of students get hung up on this one concept for this one reason. So I'm going to address it on Tuesday to make sure that doesn't happen.
He was good about that too.
Yeah.
Where he was like, okay, the entire class got this question wrong.
Right.
So
right.
I fucked up.
Either you fucked up or it's a concept that needs addressing.
And that's what he said that. He's like, so I fucked this up. He's
that's a good
and
point.
he put it on the board. And I have so many teachers who wouldn't have done that. They're like,
Right.
so you are all idiots. And it's like, sir, you never told us that.
Yeah.
How can we know? And if you're teaching
you didn't
12
read
classes a
chapter
year.
23 yet.
Yeah.
Like,
if you're teaching 12 classes a year and you think, oh, I mentioned that in all of them, and you mention it in 11, you'll assume you mentioned it in 12.
yeah.
So, oops, now it's his fault, but it doesn't look that way to him.
Right.
And then he would go through and teach it all. This is the same teacher that was the first time I ever got hungover. It was like a day after my birthday.
Fuck.
And I showed up to class and it was like a quiz review day, and so I didn't want to miss it. And I was just like miserable, and I was pale, and I was super nauseous.
Right.
And he's like, Nathan, are you okay? And I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine, sir. Yeah, I'm fine. And he's like, you don't look fine. And so he's like, wasn't yesterday your birthday? And I was like, yeah, it was. You went out, didn't you? I did. Yeah, I'll give you full credits points. I'll email you the stuff. You can go home. And I was just like, thank you, sir. Like, just being totally honest with them, being like, yes, yesterday was my birthday. Oh no, he didn't say. He's like, he was like, you don't look good. Are you ill? And I was like, well, yesterday was my birthday.
I was gonna say.
And I offered it to him, and he was like, you can go home. Or if I would have been like, no, I'm perfect. Nothing is
Right.
wrong. He'd been like, all right, be miserable for another hour and a half.
Oh my god.
By me saying, I'm hungover, he was like, you're good. I appreciate the honesty.
Because if you didn't qualify that, you just set the bar real high to all professors
Yeah.
who have to know the birthday. Not
No,
only the
this-
name of
this-
everybody, but the
This
birthday.
was like a class of 8. It was like a 500
Okay.
level top class. That kind of
Alright.
that can happen there.
Totally.
But no, I did offer it was my birthday. And he was
Alright,
like, okay, peace.
okay.
Yeah, which was super. And then
Dude.
my wife, a girlfriend at the time, was like, you just need to eat some bread. And I was like, I want to throw up. And I ate
Yeah.
a single bite of bread, and I was like, you're a magician.
What?
And she's like, yeah, then that's one of those things. I had no knowledge of
Right.
that subject, that's how hangovers work. And she just immediately fixed me.
Why does that work?
I have no idea. I think it's just because I had a ton of alcohol in my stomach still,
Yeah.
and then eating bread just soaked it up.
That's what they all say. They always say bread soaks it up. I don't think that's true.
Because the way that stomach acids work, that shouldn't happen. It
No.
has to suck all of the stomach acid up.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I
There's
think
no sucking that's
it
happening.
has to just be carbs being
Yeah.
readily available, high energy source
Right.
that then gets your body's working levels up to the point to where you're normal.
Yeah. I really think that's it.
That
Because
that makes more sense.
if you look at like liquid IVs, you want to have those liquid IVs ready if you're hungover.
But they don't have any energy sources in them. There's no carbs in there.
They are mostly carbohydrate. They're all sugar. They're
Really?
It's basically a
Saline
stick
is
of sugar.
sugar water?
No,
Because that's
no.
what IVs are saline.
It's like no. Sorry, liquid IV. It's like a
Oh, it's a drink?
yeah.
Okay, that's an entirely different thing.
Yeah, it really.
I
is.
think
It's
liquid
not a
IV, I think an
0.9%
actual
solution.
IV,
Yeah.
which is also what you do for hangovers. Because most of the
Yeah.
time your sickness is because of dehydration.
Uh-huh.
You slap an IV in there and you're good. Every
It's just
person in the military
glutathione.
ever can tell you
Right.
the stories about their platoon medic having bags of ID after times on leave.
Yeah.
It's a thing
fair
that
enough.
happens. So when you said liquid IV, I was like, yeah, it's a thing. And then you said
course.
sugar, and I'm like, do I not understand how blood works? Like, wouldn't that not kill you immediately? Let's put some sugar water into the veins.
Would that work?
I almost guarantee you that would kill you.
You think so?
There's no way that goes through the heart in a normal way and goes through the valves and everywhere.
I'm gonna tell you
normal.
something that's gonna make you feel real weird.
What?
Blood sugar levels.
Oh, you know what? That's a good point. But I'm sure it has to be like a super low
Hmm.
number of like regular bioavailable sugar and not like just saturin.
Yeah.
That's a good point. No, not a biologist. Maybe that's a good point.
Fuck biologists.
Yeah.
We're here to say as chemists, fuck biologists.
All they want to do is memorize domain, kingdom,
Yeah.
phylum, and then tell you it's a degree.
No one wants to remember shit.
Didn't you get biochem for a while?
Fuck you.
Okay, that's what I thought. Why'd you bring that
yeah.
up?
Yeah, my minor was in biology. My major.
My minor was in environmental science with an emphasis in sustainability.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Because both of those minors are minors that existed when I first went to school that didn't exist anymore. So I had to
yeah.
customize and combine them into one thing.
That kind of happened to me too, where I went in for DNA analysis, and then like 3 years later, I changed it to biochem. But they looked at it and they're like, DNA analysis? You're a rare breed. And I was like, what? Why? And they're like, we stopped offering that degree in 2016. And I was like,
Yeah, that
all
happened
right.
to me. And I showed up. So the way that they grandfathered stuff is, and nobody at home knows this, but I would go
Right.
to school for a semester and then take a semester off and try to save money. And then I would go to school for a year,
Yeah.
take a year off, and then end up, I hate that school and transfer schools. So
Uh-huh.
I
know a
bounced
couple
around
people
a
like that.
ton.
Yeah.
So whenever they said, hey, we have the environmental science minor, I had like 3/4 of that minor, but I wasn't an enrolled student when they canceled it. And so when I came back, I said, yeah, I'm an environmental science minor. They said, no, you're not.
No, you're not.
And I said, no, it's right here. And they go, yep,
Yeah.
you weren't here whenever they dropped that, so that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
I'm like, here's sustainability. It's kind of the same. And it wasn't at all. It was like another
No.
semester, which is actually one of the reasons why it took so long to get my degree, because if you do it that way, yes,
Right.
it saves money and it helps you financially. I ended up taking, 6 years worth of classes to get a
Yep.
4-year degree because they keep
Uh-huh.
moving the goalposts on you
Yep.
every time you leave and come back. And so it's miserable. Do not do it. I can tell you empirically, as somebody who's done it, don't. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Just take, but student loans suck too. So maybe I don't
They
know.
do.
Just have rich parents. That's all you have to do. Anyway, moving
Just
on.
have rich parents.
Yeah,
that's the only thing.
That's how you win life. It's
exactly.
just-
Stay on your rich parents' health insurance until you're 26.
and their basement.
Exactly. Stay in a
Yep.
rich parent's basement.
what you have to
Because, yeah, you're eating caviar anyway. You may as well just
I
stay
mean,
there.
caviar. What's the guacamole avocado toast?
Oh, my God. What is that force feeding of the bird?
We talked about that yesterday too.
Fogway.
Foie gras.
Foie gras.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
The force feeding of duck.
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
What was the bird in brandy?
But then there's a canary. I think it's a songbird. It's a songbird
yeah.
that they fatten up with grain and then they drown in brandy that you then eat whole
Under the table.
under the table underneath a cloth so God doesn't see you.
Because it's so sinful.
Because it's so sinful, God would immediately just, I don't know.
Like, if people actually thought that, why is every brothel underneath a tablecloth?
That's a good point.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
You just don't want people to see you eat a bird.
Right.
It's just
Right.
gross to your peers. It's nothing about God watching.
Right. Well, a lot of cultures are like that. I don't know if I told you, but a new guy in Bolivia who they often would go into caverns and caves, and like as a culture, they would explore those. And what they would do is when they would go underground, they would actually say a prayer to Satan.
Oh, because it's his domain now.
Because
I've
that's his
heard that
domain,
before.
yeah.
I've heard that before.
So, and that's just so interesting, and it's like culturally shocking because you're like, you do what?
There's a theory. So the Branson, where I spend a lot of time, has a cave, and it was one of the caves that had a largest amount of bats in there.
Okay.
And they
yeah.
explored it, and it had they described it as hundreds of feet of guano.
Oh my God.
Because it's been bats that have lived there for the evolutionary history of bats was that cave.
Mm-hmm.
And they were exploring it, and it's all the sulfur from the guano. So it smells like sulfur.
Mm.
And then it has the echoing bat noises, so it's making this like discordant fall noises. And then they'd say, okay, well, this is a portal to hell. Like, this is weird discordant sounds that we're not making.
Right.
And it smells like sulfur. And so they were like, okay, then they came up to the edge of this chasm, whatever it is. And they thought, okay, we have to find out how deep this is. And they grabbed like large amounts of like iron weights and threw them over the edge to listen for when they land. But they land in guano, so they don't make a sound.
Whoa.
They throw it and go, this is a pit to hell.
Ah.
There's no bottom to this. And then they ran away. And so it's like this thing that's saying, oh my God, this is, here are all these reasons this is a pit to hell. And so people were like, this is Devil's Cave.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not. It's just full of bats, which is a weird thing to have happen. But judging by what you've seen, it's a reasonable assumption for you to have. Yeah, this smells like sulfur. I hear sounds, and there's no bottom to it.
And there's like a weird light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, it's like it's on fire for some reason.
Yeah. What was that big, massive monster that comes out at
Balrog?
Balrog. Okay, you know exactly where I was going. Yeah.
Kills Gandalf the White, turns him into Gandalf. Gandalf the Grey turns him into Gandalf the White.
Yeah, that's spoiler. What the
sorry.
fuck? Yeah.
Spoiler for a 50-year-old?
A 50-year-old book. Yeah, I think it was 19.
Because Dune was in the 50s, and I think Lord of the Rings was like 20 years after that. It's like 70s.
I think it was in the 50s or 30s.
I'm gonna find. Am I just off?
I think The Hobbit was first.
Oh, that could be. Let's find out.
Yeah.
Let's find out.
Yeah, The Hobbit.
We have the power of.
Pull that shit up, Jamie.
We have the power of the internet,
Yeah,
and
we
for
do.
once we can determine when it was written. Except your network in here sucks.
Oh, you got to connect to quantum physics.
54 for Lord of the Rings.
Really?
Yeah.
And so The Hobbit must have been.
See, I thought it was a prequel.
Yeah. I think it's a prequel as a movie, but The Hobbit,
As a book, as an actual.
That's
37.
37.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
So it's closer to 100 than 50 years. Wow.
Can you imagine being a person just like alive in 37, not let alone like
Think of
how old
you
would he
could have
be
read
at
that
point?
book 5 years before you went to go fight in World War II.
Yeah. This is how old the Queen is, by the way. Because I love emphasizing this.
You're
the
right.
Queen not only was alive when World War II,
She was an active combatant.
she was an active participant in World
not
War
combatant,
II.
participant.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. She was a medic. But, I mean, that's insane to me because you think about a World War II veteran and you think, oh my God, they're almost all dead. Like, that's insane.
They are bedridden, not functioning from
Exactly.
the horrors of the war.
They're all super old. They're about to die,
And meanwhile, Queen of England's kicking it around. Now, you have a thing. Don't mention anything else about the Queen of England.
Why?
because this twice in your life that you have summoned things by thinking about them.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, so
this has happened more than once.
So don't make any comments about her health or how she's doing. She's
nothing.
the queen. She's
but
great.
I'm just saying, like compared to Betty White, she's doing great.
Oh yeah, that's that was the worst one. So January 17th, if it happens, blame Eric.
Oh my God! Long live the queen is all I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm gonna manifest that.
Good.
Long live the queen.
I mean, hasn't that already happened though?
I think no, that was Anarchy in the UK.
No, but if you say, I'm talking about old '80s albums.
Sex Pistols album, actually.
Okay, sorry, but
Yeah.
I mean, if you say "Long live the queen," she's done that.
That's good. Yeah,
She
good
should
point.
like just be able to retire now, just like be out of the public light.
No.
And go. No, I won't allow her as an American.
No,
I want her to stay there forever.
Okay, imagine this: the Duke of England, right?
I know nothing about the royal structure.
Me
but I'll
neither.
believe
Me
you.
neither. But I know that the queen has a son, who is Prince.
Yeah,
right.
who is
Prince
like
Edward
has ailing health issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The prince looks older than the queen.
The photo of him in that car.
Yeah. he's on death's door. And this is the most funny thing about that whole system though, is because as a prince, you're growing up and you're like, "Oh my God, you're singing Lion King. I can't wait to be king.
I'm going to be the primary leader of this at some point.
I'm going to be the fucking king."
And then your mom's
day.
like, "Nah."
And then your mom outlives you.
By a significant margin.
Yeah. Yeah, your mom serves in World War II and then fucking outlives you.
Yeah, I never thought about that too. There's probably a time too where you have young kids.
Yeah.
And you're off in World War II and you're like, "Man, what if she gets like
Man.
hit in a bombing accident?" Like,
I might be the youngest king of England.
Yeah, and then
Meanwhile,
70 years later, psych, bitch.
Yeah.
She's driving around.
oh my God.
That'd be an interesting.
That's insane. It's like Joe Biden. You're gonna be like you're not the leader of
The free world? Yeah, that's what they call the president.
yeah.
He's the leader of the free world.
Yeah, but like if you're the Queen of England, like you're not exactly the
Yeah,
leader.
the
You're
leader
like
of Queen of England. You're the figurehead. Figurehead sounds bad. That
Yeah.
sounds insulting.
No, it's
You're the icon
Yeah.
of England. There you go.
yeah, it's you're the monarchy. God,
There's
what
nothing
even-
else to say but Queen of England, and it's become synonymous with that
But
entire
like
monarchical idea.
okay, but it's not like King Henry the
Yeah.
Fifth, right? Like
She's not solo enacting policy that affects the
Yeah.
global scale.
So those are disjoint. So what is that in American society?
That's a great question.
Are they married?
Are they married?
Yeah. Are they the same thing?
Oh, no, I see what you meant. I thought you meant like,
Yeah.
is the individual person married? And I was
Do
like,
they
who are
have
you
kids?
thinking of now? Yeah. Do they have 14 kids?
Is she taken?
I can't. I'm just asking for a friend. I can't think of a single
Yeah.
person who's like that level of. I think as a institution,
Yeah.
Hollywood does that.
Yeah. My mind went there too.
I
Like
think that
celebrities.
it's not not a single celebrity does it, but the idea of superstars.
yeah. Cameron Diaz.
That's a weird first superstar to go to.
Cameron Diaz.
You didn't go to like a
Mike Myers.
you just-
Shrek 2.
I was gonna say just the cast of Shrek 2.
Donkey.
Shrek. Yeah, there's I can't think of because no individual actress has that sort of control.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of like Disney
Maybe.
because they can just
Mickey
kind of go
Mouse.
glomp any sort of like competitors.
Glomp
and
is
effects.
a great word.
Yeah, it is the only way I can think of to just
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
flubber. I am Star Wars now.
Yeah.
Like there's it just affect policy and public opinion
right.
without directly affecting policy.
Yeah, that's totally Hollywood. That's
Yeah.
totally Hollywood because they're all like politically minded in that way. They all lean in a certain direction. We won't specify which, but
It could be anything. You could agree
could
with it.
be
you could
anything.
not. And
Clint
also
Eastwood.
there will be an actor that agrees with you, and
Yeah.
there will also be one who disagrees with you.
Right.
And there'll be like 50 Scientologists that I will point at the camera and then not say anything about.
Dietetics.
Things.
Diuretics.
That's a very different thing.
I'm on diuretics.
All those
Fucking
actors
feels like it.
just piss a lot
That's
all
right.
the time.
piss off.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why Tom Hanks is always.
Running.
Sorry, I meant Tom Riddle. I'm going for Tom Cruise. Goddamn it, my mind can't get there.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I was like, I won't
Yeah.
get there.
So you know how sometimes I'll say something like close to what it is, and then your mind can't get there.
Yeah. Now, those of you who have never talked to him personally, if you're
Yeah.
trying to remember something, let's say, for example, the person's name is Brad, and you're like, yeah, that one guy who was what? And he'll be like, Brad. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's a bad example.
Byron.
Brandon. He'll
Yeah.
say something that's
And then
Yeah. Bryce. Like, it is impossible. Your normal mental train that is going to get you the right answer derails. And
Yep.
instead, you're now trying to do these scatter plot guesses of what the
Uh-huh.
actual name was based off of what he said. And it is impossible to work. when
It's
you do
almost
that.
like when you're bowling and you move the gutters like way close to the center line.
Yeah, but in the middle of the
Yeah.
approach.
Uh-huh.
And so you're like, oh shit, and you have to change it. It's
Like,
never gonna work.
You can't like disrupt the actual pathway to like a solid strike because that's what you're going for. Yeah, we're cutting it close. But if you move the gutters close enough to the center, then
They'll
if you're
bounce and deflect,
Yeah.
and then that will cause the ball's own momentum to
Yep.
just fuck everything up.
you move the fuck up way too close to the actual goal that it actually derails you
Yeah, it bounces,
and you can't
it's-
get back up.
And I've noticed a couple of times now that I think that you're actually saying the right name somewhere in the middle,
Oh, yeah.
and then glossing over it, which then makes me subconsciously go, okay, so it's not Brad.
Right.
And I think that you've done that before. And I didn't notice it, but I was like, recently was
Man.
Fred and I were talking about that, and
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, if he really wants to go for the double blind, he could say the right name. I think he did.
Oh no.
I think
But like
that happened.
you say the right answer, but with like a face that makes it look like you're, yeah,
Just a big old
you're
smarmy
fucking
grin.
around.
Yeah.
They're like, it's not Bryson.
It obviously
It's,
can't be Brad. Well, them, and just
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah, and then you're like, fuck, it was
So
Bryson.
it's cosmic karma that you Tom
Yeah.
Cruised yourself.
I
And
did
that-
tongue cruise myself
that was-
into that. Yeah,
That was great.
so that's the thing. My brain actually just does that automatically, and I want everyone else to suffer as well.
I will turn this personal failing into a societal thing. Everybody
Exactly.
nearby me will experience it at the same time.
Yeah. It's almost like I know what the right, like my subconscious knows what the right answer is, but my conscious mind is like, actually, here's 3 funny things that aren't
That
the
aren't
right
right
answer.
that you'll fucking think are great.
Yeah.
That I've noticed that with like my subconscious for directions and people is like
Yeah.
that. Like if
Okay.
somebody goes like, "Hey, how do you get to so and so from here?" and I'm like, there's a come and go, and you go a turn there.
And you come and then you
Then you go, and then you're there.
go.
Yeah, but so you put me in a car, and I'll get there right away. If you want me to vocalize it, can't do it.
Totally.
If it's people also, they show up and they're like, "Oh, who was that?" And I'm like, "That's no idea on the name, but it's that
Ugh.
person's brother, and their roommate is this person.
Yeah,
and
like
they do
he-
this for a living. And I really liked this conversation I had with them last year about this.
Yeah.
Okay, what's their name? I have no idea.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, what? Okay, then what else did you talk about them about?
Right.
I also have no idea. But then they show back up and they're like, "Oh, hi, Brad!" Like you got it immediately.
Right. As soon as you see their face, and you're like, okay, yeah, I could piece that
Which
together.
I mean, a lot of times, like I know, like talking again about Magic, it's a hobby where you don't have any interaction with these people outside of the games you play.
right.
And they'll be like, "Have you played with like Josh?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
I have no
Josh.
idea."
Yeah.
And then it's like you come around like, "Yo, what's up, Josh?" And you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
Oh,
weird."
I do know a Josh.
Yeah, you're like, "This is the Josh who does this." Yeah, okay. And it's just this entirely.
Uh-huh.
It's an example of an entire social structure that you're just a bullet passing through. You just see one single plane of paper interaction
Yep.
point, and that's it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's impossible to extrapolate anything off of that.
And that's the thing about like best friends, right? Like we're also fourth dimensional.
Yeah. That
right?
you can start to assume that. Notice that is whenever I really know how good of a friend I am.
Yeah.
When you can assume something about them that they're either
Right.
not telling themselves or not aware
Uh-huh.
of. Like
Yeah.
take example Fred
Yeah.
being like, "Dude, you're totally hyperthyroid." Like that's all the symptoms that you have
Like,
and
I
the way
see
the
the
eating
signs.
pattern has.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, "No way."
Totally
And you
not.
start thinking about it and you're like, "Oh my God, I am." You're like, that's when you really know somebody.
Yeah.
Because you have a full enough picture to start to extrapolate stuff in the middle.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes not having a full picture helps you do that.
Right.
Because there'll be some data point that he's aware of that makes you think the otherwise that I don't see. So then I just go, no, it's perfect. You fit inside the circle perfectly because there's no outliers that I don't see, which is also how judgments happen that aren't true. Oh my God, I heard he's such a bitch. Like, You talked to him twice,
Yeah.
and one time he wasn't rude and you thought he was. And one time he
Yeah.
was rude, but you were, standing in his way or something. Like,
Right,
so
right.
you would think there's definitely a sweet spot you want to hit there.
I never fucking trust when people judge someone harshly like that.
It's the idea of like assumptions.
Yeah.
That's like 95% of the time they're miserable. But if
Right,
somebody's like,
right.
hey, you're going to do this thing and it's going to hurt you. And, you're like, oh, and then you get hurt and you're like,
Right.
damn, I guess I should have listened there.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, it's like this, though. Like, when people talk negatively about somebody just freely,
Yeah.
I find that suspicious.
That's usually an indication of the person doing the sharing.
Exactly.
Rather than the person.
Yeah.
If you get a couple of different people, you're like, hey, so-and-so, and we'll just think of somebody from work
Right.
that you think that about.
Uh-huh. Totally.
Okay? And you're
Yeah.
like, hey, so-and-so is like they're just really negative all the time.
Right.
And they're just mean. And you're like, no way.
No.
And then somebody else goes, hey, yeah, they're just in a bad mood, like historically. And you're like, okay, that's the second person who said that. And someone else is like, yeah, I don't really like talking to so-and-so. They're usually really negative. And you're like, oh.
There's a pattern.
You're like, this is not just three people. And sometimes you get falsely said that.
Yeah,
That's just
false
three people.
consensus.
Three people who like to stir the pot, or one,
Yep.
and then two people like to stir the pot, and one too trusting person who's like,
Right,
hell yeah,
right.
I agree also.
Exactly.
So that happens, but
Yeah. It's an interesting dance because you have to listen to the consensus, but at the same time, you have to formulate your own opinion
it
about
just
it.
comes back to being a scientist.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
You agree with the consensus, and then go, but why?
But why
I want to
though?
prove it. And social consensuses are easy. Hi, so and so. How are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. Oh, cool. Thanks. Nice to
Yeah.
see you. How was your weekend? Oh, it's fantastic. Okay, cool. Bye.
Exactly.
Oh, they're not an asshole. That was easy. And then if
Right.
it's anything more grounded and anything about particle physics or something, that's not it's not
Yeah.
going to happen so
Definitely
easily.
not. And the Earth is flat.
I mean, if you want to think the Earth is flat, you are more than entitled to be wrong.
Well, I'll tell you what. There was a consensus.
Yeah, for
During a time.
hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years.
Everyone
Not
knew.
only was there a consensus that the Earth was flat and everything
Right.
revolved around it,
Mhm.
you would go be murdered for disagreeing with the consensus.
Exactly.
So it actively squashed the idea of saying, hey, maybe it's not because there are these stars and they move not in a way that would say centralized
Right,
rotation.
right. Yeah.
They move separately.
Well,
And I can go
observations
draw
are-
these, and they go, which? And you go,
Well,
I
I've
turned those
completely
were
changed my opinion.
paintings of something different, and don't kill me. And I will never say another word. You say
It's
as
just
they're
a
throwing the
story
rope over. Yeah,
Yeah.
it just doesn't work.
Yeah, no. All right, we're at 2:30 right now, which means we are about at the time where we have to go do an isolation tank.
Don't have to. We
don't
get
have
to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah, one isolation tank holding hands.
One pod.
God, that would be miserable.
Yeah.
Just imagine,
Yeah.
imagine a double-sized pod. Just every now and again, something like
Bumping
touches you.
it, yeah.
Oh my God,
Ugh,
I would be.
no.
You couldn't pay me to do that.
Mm-mm.
That'd be awful.
You would have to have a swimming pool, and you'd have to be at the other side of a very Olympic size
Swimming pool.
Swimming
And
pool,
but even
yeah.
so, like them breathing and like making the water ripple.
Yeah,
I'd want to
fair enough.
I'd want to go over a table at them.
Like, oh my God.
Could you just fucking die and quit
Fucking.
breathing? Jesus. Yeah, that'd be miserable.
Well, this is going to be the end of this episode 1. Thank you, Nathan.
Oh, thanks for
joining
having me, Eric.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me for episode 1. Let the people know where they can find you.
Where can
Yeah.
they find me, Eric?
Yeah.
What programs do you recommend they
Let's
use?
see. Well, twitch.tv/Mason Rudolph.
No, I don't think. What's my Twitch name? I think it's Tug Fugly.
Oh, is it?
I think it
What?
is. I'm pretty sure.
They can find you on AIM.
On Google dot nothing.
Just ask him ASL.
Yep, and I'll respond. What?
Yeah.
I have basically no social medias.
Right.
I
Okay.
never get on anything. I don't have a
Alright,
Twitter.
fair
I don't have
enough.
a Twitter. I don't
No.
have. I have a Steam account, but that's for friends. That's about it.
Fair.
If you want to talk to me, talk to Eric.
That's a good point.
And
Yeah.
download the podcast on wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, download the podcast. Thank you. Wherever you listen to podcasts. Remember, if you want to make your own podcast,
I'm sure you have the old audio spliced.
I do.
right?
Yeah,
okay.
I'll definitely.
I mean, no,
throw
you
that in
read
there.
it every time. Go ahead and
Yeah.
read it now, Eric.
If you want to make your own podcast,
I thought you were just gonna splice it in.
yeah,
I was trying to set it up.
fair enough. Yeah, I guess that's the way to do it. You know, I've made $3.33
Hey,
with all ads.
that's straight gain. There's no money you've ever spent on anything
Definitely not.
ever.
I haven't
that would-
spent Any amount
Yours
of money.
made no sound.
I know. What the fuck?
Your mic was solid. Mine.
Yeah, it's 2 different mics, and it's interesting actually to see the difference between the 2.
We'll find out in the post, but it's definitely better
guess
than
we
having
will.
like a table mic and having that weird echoey sound that people do. Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
like lean way closer to the talk. That'd
Yeah.
be miserable.
Well, for episode 1, this has been exciting. It's definitely nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
A little bit. I don't know if it's the rain or the jitters.
It's probably the 300 milligrams of caffeine.
Maybe it's the 600 milligrams of
Oh,
caffeine.
you had 2 of those.
I downed one before you
Okay,
got
that's
here.
a 0% blame on
Yeah,
the podcast. That's
know.
just your own body chemistry.
And it's actually really bad to do before the isolation tank. So
Well, next episode, you'll tell them about how your trip went
yeah, we will microdose before.
with caffeine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Totally.
Goodbye, everybody.